Bro.
Hey, Angel and James.
Glad to see you here.
Likewise, this was a surprise. Love jumping in the surprise. I seen the title like, oh, Angel Miller. Oh, the boss is in the building.
We were just laughing because I said, we were talking about kind of where how you get to where you're going. And I said, well, Jay-Z, I don't know what kind of crowd you're running over here, but I'm a bomb dropper. So I shoot
There
straight
you
from the
go.
hip. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think what you said there, Angel, it is, and I think we talked about with James is like if you know the way you talk, just like what's the name, David Goggins. Well, I can get it from
Yeah.
the military to where it's like you're cursing at the action,
Yeah.
or David's coming from. I know you can do better, but
Yeah.
I'm so fired up that man, you're making me pissed off because I know you have it in you, and
The
sometimes
no BS zone.
no BS on no, but no, it's coming out of love, because it that's what we need sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I'm
You
here for
should
you, George.
Right.
There's a reason I don't put some of the after hours up on YouTube. Let's just say
Right.
that.
It might get a little spicy.
Right.
It usually does depending on who's on. They're wonderful. Seeing a couple of new faces in here tonight. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
love it. I know I've been I'm in Kentucky right now, and springtime in Kentucky is like Kansas City, Tornado Alley. We had four tornadoes last week. We flooded the Ohio River, flooded, half the city. I had to go out our property. We got a couple of properties here, and the tornadoes came through, tore down the privacy fencing stuff. I had to go over and, meet the property manager and do all that stuff. It's been a crazy week. I mean, my DMs are blown up. I haven't responded to people. It's been that week.
Oh man.
Uh, I made it through the tornado, so I'm alive. So I'll catch up with people when I can.
There you go. You're still spinning around with the tornado. You can turn
Man.
the pitch up.
She's right
And
in
they
the
hit at the
eyes.
craziest times. We had one, it came in at like, I don't know, after midnight. And then another one right behind it at 4 in the morning. And then the next day it was like a midnight again. And I'm like, really, can we have a 4 o'clock in the afternoon tornado and get this over with so I can
Right.
sleep?
Oh, yeah, that's crazy. You're letting gonna give a couple more minutes to let a couple more people fill in here.
Okay.
Seeing a lot of new
Absolutely.
faces. That
George,
is
what have you been
awesome.
up to? I haven't got to talk to you since you did your event. Everything go well?
Yeah, it's going good. Obviously being in here with James and the rest of the crowd getting some good nuggets and being able to
Yeah.
take that action and kind of failing in our faces sometimes and being able to schedule this time to where a lot of people, because actually our accountability Zoom for Houston is actually at the same time. Like, nah, I'm gonna hang out with my guy James. Well, maybe they'll get the clue one day that I show priority over James than my own group here in Houston. But yeah, just being able to see the things that I need. It is getting that system in place and knowing that you don't have to do it all yourself and eventually building that around you into where you're just
Absolutely.
concentrating on your superpower.
Yeah.
And so,
George, I don't know how long I went until I figured out what my superpower was. Like
wow,
I was already in a position of coaching,
right.
thinking that really my superpower was one thing when I'm like, it's really not.
Mm.
I'm great at a lot of things. But is it my superpower?
Right.
No, no. And, my superpower ended up being something that was totally not even business related, but it's just how I lead my life, and that's love. That is my
Right.
superpower.
Got it. And just
So,
Nice.
going kind of like the Care Bear stare, just
yeah,
opening
you
up.
know, let it shine, baby. And, when you do everything with the intention of love, because I see a lot of familiar faces on here, and people who know me know who I am. I'm just kind of to the point. You're not going to BS me. Don't tell me you're doing something and you're not doing it.
Right.
But when we talk about those things and we approach those things, I do that out of love.
Yes.
Love for you. I want you to get better.
Right.
I want to see you succeed, you
True.
know? But some people can't take that, and it's okay. It's
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
just like
it
says
takes
everything
time.
from the
It's obviously
apart.
being around high powered I mean higher level people and knowing that. not that you're not any specialer than me, but we all have, like I said, that
Right.
special power within us, and so we are stopping ourselves a lot of the time, but needing that gut check every
Absolutely.
once in a while.
Yeah. And I just
100%.
unfortunately end up in a position a lot of times where I'm the one giving that gut check.
Luckily, I haven't been on that side of Angel yet. And I'm
Nice.
still young, but
Yeah, yes.
but
We'll
no,
keep it
that's
going.
yeah. That's something that's important. That was actually brought up just in the very beginning with finding and understanding the superpower
Yeah.
and where your passions lie. And you know, I've talked about it quite a bit. It's actually something I mention to everybody when we speak about real estate,
Mhm.
about how you find your passion through taking that imperfect action and making all of those mistakes along the way and really start to, you know, lean into who you were meant to be. And once you get yourself to that point, it's amazing what starts happening.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to just add to that a little bit, Jay-Z. We were actually on, I believe it was a House of Cards podcast, and Chris was talking about superpowers and what have you. And that's when I started to question, like, what is my superpower? And what ended up unfolding on that was people started to chime in like on my behalf and say, this is your superpower, this is your superpower, you lead with love, you're blah blah blah, all this stuff. And it took other people telling me how they saw me, their perception of me, what they drew from me, to like really bring that home. It's not something I was just like one day, oh yeah, my superpower is love, yeah, all those good things. That that was really like the farthest thing from my mind, because you guys kind of know how I am. Uh, I'm not all sunshine and rainbows, but um, it took other people allowing me the the opportunity to see how they perceived me. And even though I might deliver some tough love sometimes, they still identified that as love. And that was, I'm not a crier, but I mean, I'm telling you, like really touched me in a really deep way. That because sometimes, I've heard, no, people won't say it, but like, they perceive me as like kind of hard and stoic and, all of those things. But that's kind of the feedback that I felt like I got from people. So to hear people say what they said genuinely, like really touched me very deeply, that that's what they were drawing from me. Um, so, I mean, maybe you don't really know what your superpower is. So my suggestion to anyone who doesn't, ask the people around you, the people that you're spending the most time with. How do you see me? What is it that you draw from me? If we're on a meeting or we're in a room together, what are you drawing from me? What kind of energy are you getting from me? You know, um, that might give you a little more insight into where to send your energy. Because
Oh,
success will follow
absolutely.
that.
I love that, and I love the emotion behind that as well. Um, that's I'll admit for the first year and a half into real estate, it was not being able to take that moment to actually ask people for that feedback, not really understanding that perception when it came to people that I was trying to work with or who I was talking to. And you know, we've talked about it before. I know George and I have talked about it, and I've laughed about it with quite a few people. That that first year and a half in real estate is I was self-proclaimed as like I'm a closer and I'm amazing at just selling and doing this, and that's it. Like I chose that,
Yeah.
and self-proclaimed doesn't really have a very good stigma to it when you actually hear that. But sometimes you have to tell yourself and you have to ask yourself, like, okay, so if I feel as though like this is my superpower, is this self-proclaimed or is this what the universe is
Mhm.
actually giving back to me, so that I can understand that? And it took a very long time to realize and understand that. I was not a closer, by the way. I wasn't able to lock up. I locked up one successful deal in over a year and a half. So that doesn't say anything about what happens when you try to be self-proclaimed in the very beginning. I don't know what
Mhm.
does.
Yeah. Well, can I share something with you?
Absolutely.
I You said something that kind of made me want to share this, but you said you're self-proclaimed, and you did kind of ask how people perceived you. I didn't want to ask. Ultimately, I really didn't want to know because my
We're
self-perception was they're going to say she's a bitch or she's stoic or, she's rude or, those are the things because I do lead with love. So when I have to be hardcore, I feel a certain way about it. Right. And so that was my perception of George is probably not going to come back and ask me for advice again because I just gave him a gut check. But the reality of it was when I got the courage to say, how do you perceive me? It was the total opposite. Yeah, Angel, thank you for that gut check. That's exactly what I needed. I needed you to tell me, I wasn't being accountable. I needed you to tell me these things. But I was scared to ask because my own self perception viewed me a different way. Yes, yes, Anna, you're absolutely right. Always listen to the gut. Always. Gut checks are
uh,
a real thing, guys.
Facts.
and I can speak to that, and that's one of those things like we've worked at to some
Mhm.
capacity before in the
Yeah,
past, and you know and I'm gonna anybody that was here when Chris was on, you're gonna hear the same exact line that I said with Chris, because I mean this with both of them as well. As neither one of us were our true selves when we were working together at that capacity, so we didn't get to meet
right.
the true version of each other. And we were on a meeting. I believe it was last night or the other night. I believe it was last night. My days are meshing. I've been on so
I
many
know.
Zooms. But we were in a meeting, and you were asking questions, and there was one point that you wanted to clarify with me, that either I understood the questions or I wasn't taking the questions the wrong way. And having a conversation of that caliber and that capacity, it hits a lot different. And I don't say that like, most people are like, oh man, that hits different. It The perception comes off totally different when we're having conversations of that caliber, when we're our true selves. That I didn't even flinch when you were asking some of those questions, and we just like rolled through. Like, I'm glad that you asked that. I'm glad that you literally challenged something that I just presented, so we can actually walk through a conversation to see what that would really look like if we were to move
Yeah,
forward with this.
absolutely. And I know I know that Chris had said this, and so that this is no front page of news, but you do have to, at some point, to be successful, get comfortable in the uncomfortable. And that's
Mm-hmm.
way easier said than done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's not good. It doesn't feel good when somebody gives you that gut check at all. There's nothing good about it. But the more comfortable you get in that type of scenario, well, most of you guys know my business partner, Chris James, and he is one tough cookie. He will ask those uncomfortable questions. He will and continue. He'll drill. And I when I first started working with Chris, I took it very defensively, very defensively. And I'm like, well, you're kind of questioning me like a child. And over time, that grew into allowing me to deeply reflect on my actions. What is it that he actually said? What offended me? What really offended me? Is it A, because it's true? Or is it something that I just need to work on? Was my perception of what he said not correct? Right? Um, so you have to have those kind of people around you. And just talking about me challenging you, we could have sat through that whole meeting, Jay-Z, and I'd have been like, oh, it's a great idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it. And we could have hopped off the meeting, but no, I wanted to know how bought in you were to that.
Yeah. We
You
could
had a
have had
great
the latter too.
presentation, great ideals, but how bought into it were you? You especially nowadays, people do present a lot of things. Did you just write that up? Did you just let Chat GPT write that up?
real
I want
quick
to know
before we jump on.
how much thought you put into that and the reason behind why you thought those steps were good, you know? Um, and that's what you get when you do get in those higher level rooms. You have to be able to be okay with being challenged. You can't parrot what other people say. You know, let's be honest. And this is one of those things, I hope no one gets offended, but say Dan Martell says something great. Then you hear Tony Robbins say it. Then you hear Dean Graziosi say it. And all of a sudden, everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Everybody that's in front of the camera is saying the same stuff. And not that there's not truth to it, but let's be honest, we are all in different places in our lives. We're in different places in our businesses, and there is no one size fits all in what we do. So, according to your day, whatever that looks like, if you're not being challenged to grow and being asked those type of questions, you're going to be in the same spot you were a year down the road. So you should, if I encourage anybody to do anything on that piece of it, it is make sure you are surrounding yourself daily, whether you go grab somebody that's already in a group with you or whatever. But if you are hanging out with people that are always telling you you're doing a great job, that never question your ideals or thoughts, you're in the wrong room. You are totally in the wrong room. Now, you may
100%.
have to, just like me, took me a little while to not be offended. You know, I'm of average intelligence. So when I knew something, I thought I knew something 100% thoroughly inside out, and you question my intelligence, I would be like, what?
Yeah.
I know what I'm doing. I know what this says. We all have those things that we feel like we're really good at. And when somebody challenges that, it's very easy to get offended, right?
Yes.
But if you can't take what they say and reflect on it, you might as well, to me, give up now. You're not going to grow. If you can never see how you can do something better, then you're not going to grow. It's plain and simple. There's no magic in
100%.
that. You don't need to pay somebody $10,000 to tell you that. Guys, it's human nature. And you have to get uncomfortable to grow. Period.
You really do. And, to double back on the importance of what you said about, being able to put yourselves in the room to be uncomfortable with, having those higher level conversations, even having those higher level people that you might not look up to right now,
Yeah.
or you haven't looked up to, but you're starting to be able to decipher the way that they are conveying or speaking to you, or when they poke holes in things, what's the true meaning behind why they're doing that. Have I ever told you the story about Rick when I was younger, when I was kind of really getting into my culinary journey?
So, mm-mm.
Uh, So, older Italian guy, Rick, and he was the executive sous chef at the restaurant that I was at. Now, I was still in high school, and before I moved up to New England, I went to a culinary arts school down in Philadelphia. So, I had already done 2 years of schooling at this point. I came up, family was leaving. I needed to work. I needed a lot of hours and I needed good pay. So I started working at this restaurant. And Rick and I got along for a little while. He was an older gentleman. And we got along for a little while. And I started to get irritated with him very quickly. And then we were bumping heads a lot in the kitchen. Now, the reason why I was getting irritated is because here I am. I'm 17. I'm the youngest line cook in the area. I know it all. I'm on top of the world. You can't tell me something I don't know yet. I'm fresh out of school for this. I'm surpassing people that are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. And then I have this dude that's in his early 60s that's coming over to me every time I'm doing prep. Every time. Now, mind you, in my mind, then prep was low level stuff. Like, oh, we could just get somebody in here later to really take care of prep so I can shine where I'm at. I'll just do prep to kind of buy the time. And he would come over consistently. It was at a seafood restaurant, so I've never worked with seafood before. We didn't have that in Philly. So me in my mind, I already went through school. I read books. I'm self-taught on a couple of things. I could take what I know and that's going to transfer into how I'm dealing with seafood. And he would come over and be like, hey, let me stop you real quick and let me show you this. I would get so irritated every time he would do that. I'm me like in the back of my head, I'm like, who does this guy think he is? Like he's on his way out. I just went through school. I've learned the new way of doing things. Why is he telling me how to do my job? He shouldn't be. Like I know what I'm doing. So that happened for months, months. And then I ended up moving up to there was a store right above the restaurant. It was the same owner. I got bumped up to where I was running the deli in the kitchen in the back of the store. So I'm like, great, now I get away from this guy. I don't have to deal with him anymore. Lo and behold, who walks through the back door? Rick.
Of
And
course.
he's trying to give me these pointers. And I'm like, dude, like I took this to get away from you. Stop, leave me alone. Like I know what I'm doing. We got into an argument because I'm like, man, I came into the restaurant, I worked my way up. The owners handed me this. This is my baby. Your baby's down there. Leave me alone. He stopped. He didn't come in. And I remember there was a customer that came in who wanted their wedding catered. I'm a one-man crew. I had nobody. But again, I'm one of the youngest guys in the area. I moved up. Like I got it together. Let me break out the books. Let me start talking to my vendors. Let's, sit down. Let's put this together, what it looks like, and I'll be able to do it. So the orders came in and I got overwhelmed really quick. Really quick. Like I was out of my depths. There were things that were involved, prep that was involved that I had no idea how to do. The crazy part about it? Rick was trying to show me some of that before.
Mhm.
I didn't think about that until getting into real estate. I didn't think about Rick or any of that. And now that I look back on that, it wasn't that he was picking me apart. He was trying to show me, hey, there are easier ways to do this. Hey, like, be confident, but also be willing to learn, be willing to unlearn and relearn things that you think that you know, and be willing to continuously grow from the people that are where you wanted to be or where you want to be.
Mhm.
I didn't know at that time that he had successfully owned 2 restaurants. He taught people how to cook. I didn't know any of that. By the time that realization hit, it was too late for me to actually go thank him and say sorry for arguing with him. He was already gone.
Yeah. You know, life is full of lessons. For me, kind of the same thing, Jay-Z. I started out in a restaurant as well. And the first guy that I worked for, man, he was tough. He was a real, it's my way or the highway kind of guy. And I resented him so much sometimes because any of you guys that's ever worked in a restaurant, you're humping. It's blood, sweat, and tears when it's crunch time, and he would just cut you off at the knees sometimes. Things that he'd say, and you're like, damn, I know I was doing a good job. And he was tough, but kind of like you, he taught me a lot of lessons, things that I did take forward with me, and plenty of things I left behind because some of them were he was really old school, just aren't even acceptable in this day and age. But um,
Can't put the knife in the bleach bucket anymore.
but you take it. We are all just a bundle of learned experiences. You take those experiences and you either reflect and transmute or whatever you've got to do with them to make them work for you and move forward with them, or you leave them behind. Some are bad lessons. I've took a lot of hard knocks over my life. Kind of like you, you get into some things and you think you're great at it, boom, something happens. You know, you can always expect obstacles. You can always expect that. It's how you work through those and the lessons you take from those that really matter. Um, Real estate for me was, for those of you who don't know me, I did, like I said, I started out in a restaurant. I worked myself through college. Wanted to be, didn't really want to be, but I was good with numbers. So I went, and I am a little bit of an overachiever. I ended up doing a double major and a minor in business, accounting, and systems. Um, and then I went on to get my MBA. And education is very important to me. I do love to learn. Um, but I thought that I was going to take all that knowledge and just go set the world on fire. And the truth of the matter is, you know, whether you've got an MBA or not, you're still going to start out as a junior if you don't have experience, right? Period. You know, nobody's going to pay you until you can show them what you can do.
Tough lesson when you get into the real world.
It is. And, you know, so I started, you know, going out, and I was killing these interviews. You know, people were giving me job offers on the spot, but the money sucked. You know, you start out even in a junior management position, which this was 2 decades ago, but was like $30,000, $35,000 for an entry level. And finally, I was just going to bite the bullet and take it just to get the experience. And I went back and I was working, like one of the job duties that I had at the restaurant while I was in school was I would go after they closed at night and close down the books and do all the money and all the deposits and all that stuff. And I was letting, you know, the manager at the time know, you know, I'm going to have to take one of these entry-level jobs because I've got to get some experience. You know, I don't want to die in this restaurant. And he actually laughed at me and he said, Angel, you know, if I offered you a job, would you stay here? And I was like, well, depends what you're paying me. You know, I mean, that's the reason I'm leaving, is because, you know, I need to earn more money. And that man started me out. And at the time, he knew what I was capable of because I've worked for him, you know. So he didn't do it blindly, so to speak. But, you know, I started out at $45,000 just to be a house manager. And, you know, ended up working there all the way through, like managing partner. And I'd probably still be, well, I wouldn't say I'd still be doing that. I would probably own about 6 restaurants now, but if I had stayed on that path. But um, you know, you have to make those choices. And uh still to this day, well, at some point on a restaurant, it's still my passion. But um
This
that's
is
really where,
interesting.
for me, I learned so many tough business lessons, because it's much like real estate. You know, I did work in the corporate arena for a long time. I did C-level executive suite management. I did mergers and acquisitions, and I did all that for about 15 years after I left the restaurant business, which I only left because, you know, after my third kid, I was like, I can't do 70 hours a week anymore. You know,
Yep.
it's not
Yeah.
happening. So I did end up moving into the corporate world, but um, my mind just went blank. Sorry. Uh,
No
so
problem.
anyway, I would definitely be in a different space had I stayed in the restaurant business. But real estate is much like that. We don't have a normal day to day. It's not, you know, and I can compare that. That's from experience, from, you know, being years in a restaurant and then working in the corporate world for many, many years, and then heading off on my own in entrepreneurship in real estate. You know, that was like day and night. You know, when I worked at the university, I had millions of dollars of resources. So if I needed you know, something pulled in, we needed to change systems, we needed to change management, we needed to change all those things. I had tons of dollars at my disposal to do that. Now I'm in a position where I have nothing. I can pay nobody nothing. There are no resources at my disposal. What the hell do I do from here? Right? How do I grow this thing? How do I do this? When you start with nothing, it's a totally different day to day than when you're working in the W-2 world and you have somebody else's resource at your beck and call. Um, so I did that. I said, you know, this said, I'm gonna hop out in this entrepreneurial journey, and I did that, and I built a wholesaling business. It was very successful. Still, the first year I still made over 6 figures, so I still matched my income from the university. And I did it for almost 2 years, and I was so burnt out. I hated it. I love talking to sellers, and I love being like their savior because I worked foreclosures. That was kind of my thing. And that was probably the only thing that kept me going because I loved that part of it. I have a servant's heart, and I loved that part of it. I knew I was helping people, but dang, you talk anybody in this room, you can will agree if you're doing wholesaling, it's a 14-hour day. It's a grind. There's no BS there. People can sugarcoat it and sell it however they want to, but if you're running a successful wholesaling business, you're working your ass off. Okay. And I was just like over it, you know. I didn't want to get into real estate. I thought wholesaling would be different. Well, I'll preface with that. I thought wholesaling was going to be different than it was. And although, like I said, I enjoyed talking and helping sellers and all that, it was a grind. But I really had got into real estate to create passive income. That is what I thought I was going in to do. And after 2 years of wholesaling, I created a lot of cash, so to speak, but it was active. I couldn't stop wholesaling that day and still have $8,000 a month coming in consistently with nothing, without doing anything for it, right? That's true passive income. And that's just where I knew I wanted to be. Now, people may say this is a dumb thing, but it made sense to me at the time. I stopped cold turkey, fired my VAs, shut down the wholesaling business, and I went all in. In your mind, because if you know yourself well enough, I know I'll go get her. I know I'll take action. I know that I'll do the things that I need to do. But I really didn't think it through. And like I said, when you have nothing, you start from nothing, and you've got to have resources, no matter what area of real estate you're working in. You need some type of support, whether that's capital, whether that's physical people. You've got to have resources. And I just jumped right off the cliff, just jumped in there. I'm doing this, right? Yeah, didn't work out so well. So I ate ramen noodles for about a year consistently. Lost my house, lost my car. Can't count on my fingers probably how many times I went to give plasma to pay the electricity bill, but I didn't give up. No matter how hard, no matter how many times I went and laid my head down on that pillow and cried, I refused to give up. Absolutely refused. And it was that thought, like, if I give up today, would tomorrow have been the day? And I could never get that out of my mind. If I stop today, will tomorrow be the day I would have hit it big? And that drove me to do that. And eventually, I think God said, okay, I've given you enough shit. Let's get this moving. So I ended up connecting with the right people and started to move the right direction. But I say all that to say, what we do is hard, guys. I don't know where each of you are on your journey, whether you're just jumping in, you're just starting out, or if you're successfully running a wholesale business, or you're buying and holding or co-living or whatever you're doing. It's hard, unless you're at a point where you're making 8 figures. I'm not going to say 7 figures. 7 figures is easy to do, especially guys wholesaling. If you're not making 7 figures, we need to talk. Because you're not charging enough for wholesale fees or something. Anyway, we can talk about that. But you have to, and I hate to say it because it seems so cliche, but your success will truly depend on the people around you. And some of that kind of ties back to Jay-Z, what you were talking about, and that's if you're not in the room with those people that are challenging you, how do you ever think you're going to move forward? I mean, I'm sorry, it's not rocket science, guys. And like I said, you don't need to pay somebody $10,000 to pump you up to get you to go do what you need to do. Do your own gut check. Is this really where I want to be? Is this really what I need to be doing? Do I have that shiny object syndrome? Am I not focused? You know, you can't, even those of you who may have a team of your own right now, oftentimes they're mismanaged. You know, Chris and I do coach people on the operational side of things. Um, and when we have these discussions, that's generally what we find is people's bottlenecks are operational. And then you dig a little deeper and it really comes to they're mismanaging themselves. So don't mismanage yourself. Don't mismanage people. Get yourself right, because when you are holding yourself accountable, when you are being consistent and you're eating freaking ramen noodles for a year, if that's what you got to do, if this is truly what you want to do that. Because once you have a clear vision, you've got a clear mission, you know where you're heading and nobody's going to stop you. That's the only time and at the only point that you're going to be able to successfully lead a team as well.
100%.
Because just like
Really,
parents, your team will always look to you for direction. They're always going to look at your actions. They don't hear what you're saying, just like when you're a teenager and your parents are telling you things and you're like, yeah, whatever.
yep.
People that work for you will do the same thing, because most people that will come work for you are people who are used to a W2 mindset anyway, right? They're going to hear this and it's going to go in one ear and out the other. They're going to watch you. What is Jay-Z doing every day? Does Jay-Z tell me to journal every day, but he's never touched one himself a day, a day in his life? They're going to watch you. People, we naturally watch and observe others. And if you are not doing all the things that you're telling your people to do, it's going to be a problem. So you got to get yourself right
100%.
first. And that was a struggle for me, because I had a W2 mindset, right? I mean, all my life up until that point had worked for somebody. Now I was successful in those ventures, but nonetheless, whether if I screwed off that week and didn't give my job 100%, I still got my paycheck at the end of the week. Nothing changed, right? When you're doing this on your own and feeding your family depends on your actions, you better get them right. I know at one point, there might be somebody on here that was on that Zoom 3 years ago, if I recall. I'm not a crier, guys, and I've definitely never cried in public until that moment. And I'll tell you what happened. We had a group called Tribe of Millionaires, and we met a couple times a week, every week. And that was probably during a time that was most difficult when I was transitioning into my own entrepreneurial journey. And I was, like I said, no bullshit. I was eating a lot of ramen noodles. Now I had two kids at home too. Now they're teenagers, which makes it even worse because they're hungrier, they're needier, all those things, right? Give me money. I want to go out with my friends. I want to go, I need this shoe. I need all, it's different. 5-year-old, you're like, eat a freaking chicken nugget, move it on, right? You can't do that with teenagers. So I was in that precarious position where I was like, am I doing the right thing? My kids are sitting here watching me work 14 hours a day, but I still have to go give plasma to pay the light bill. Like, am I setting the right example? In my head, I'm thinking, am I showing them that it's okay to sacrifice for what you want? Or am I just effing this all up? Somebody had said something on that meeting and I just started to cry. My son had come and put a letter in front of the Zoom, he like set it down so I would read it when I got done with the Zoom. And as somebody was talking, I of course started to read it, just go ahead and start reading it. And this kid, I think he was 16 at the time, said, Mom, I just want you to know I see you. And, from him, it was more like, I see you, but I see you. I see what you're doing. And just watching you do what you do every day, I'm proud of you and I want to be just like you. Oh my God, you all.
You're,
Like,
oh, geez.
I started crying on the Zoom. And
You're
everybody's
making
like, what
me
the hell's
cry
wrong?
now.
And, I ended up sharing the letter on the Zoom while I cried because It's like God knew I needed that confirmation, because I really was torn. Like, am I really setting the right example for my kid? I didn't want them to eat ramen noodles all the time, but I knew the end goal would be worth it. I knew that. But at the same time, it was like, am I doing the right thing? Because you never want to take anything from your kids, right? I could have went back and worked a 6-figure job and they could have had everything they wanted again. Before that point, they always did. And that's what bothered me the most, because now I knew they knew what it was like to have everything. We had a basketball court, we had a pool, we had all those things. And now we're sitting here with nothing, eating ramen noodles. Am I really doing the right thing? Knowing that I have the option to go back and give them the same kind of life, right? That was really tough, but I did it. And I only share that with you guys to say, really think about what this journey is for you. If you cannot be 100% honest with yourself about what you're willing to sacrifice, then you're in the wrong business. Okay? And all the things that you're thinking you want to do, you're wanting to accomplish, if you're not doing them, you're just a dreamer. So if I, can encourage you guys to do anything, it's that. Really sit down and take a self-audit of where you are and what you're willing to put into this. And if you can be honest with yourself and connect with people who truly want to help you be successful, there's no stopping you. There is no stopping you. I mean, well, Jay-Z, you've literally peeked behind our curtains. You're in our systems all the time. We, you go from eating ramen noodles. I mean, we have almost a $7 million portfolio now on short-term rentals, long-term rentals, corporate rentals, co-living facility. It's unbelievable where you can go in a few years if you will just self-audit, eat some of your ego, because we all have it. Ego exists in all of us. Realize you're not really great at everything, and learn from people that are already doing it. Quit reaching out to people who are just dreamers. They've been in the community for 3 years, but they've never bought a house. They've never wholesaled a deal. There's a reason for that. And I'm not knocking anybody. I'm just telling you that you need to self-audit. Because if you've been going and going and going for X amount of time, you're doing something wrong. There's no doubt about it. You're doing something wrong, but you only know what you know. So if you want to level up, get around people who are actively doing what you want to do, whether it's wholesaling, whether it's buying and holding, whether it's co-living, whatever you're doing, whatever that goal is, shut out everybody else. This is a huge community and it's really easy to get lost in things, right? Shut it all out. Figure out what it is you want to do. Tomorrow, when you wake up out of bed, if you're not like, damn, I got to find 5 rockin' wholesalers today. If you're not DMing 5 wholesalers, if that's what you want to do, who are making 7 figures, you're spending your day all wrong. All wrong. So, sorry.
So first off, you made me cry.
I get really passionate about this because we all have our stories. We've all been through things. Everybody's had their ups and downs, whatever going on in your life. But we also all have potential.
100%.
But if you don't act on that, if you don't actively seek what it is you actually need, then we're still going to have the same conversation next year, right?
100%.
It's just the way it is. And furthermore, it's human nature, guys. If you're not aligning whatever your core values are with your business goals, you're going to continue to run into things, because everything we do naturally, let me see that, without, like, putting this out on a chalkboard somewhere. Let me just break this down for you. If you're like, oh, I want to start a business, I want to do this, but your core, say you're a mom, your core is I'm happiest when I'm taking care of my kids. This is what I'm really happiest doing, but I'd really like to start that business to provide for them a little more. But the business doesn't really make you happy. Taking care of the kids makes you happy, right? So as much as you try to do this, you keep really going back to this. That's that's really the way that it works. And that's God's beautiful way of taking you, always trying to take you back to your core. So um, again, I'm just going to kind of go back to that self-audit thing, guys. You really sit down and, just write out what it is that your goals are. What do you truly, where would you like to be a year from now? And be brutally honest. Do this alone with nobody else around. Don't talk to anybody about it. You and yourself sit down and do this. Because if you're not truthful on that piece of paper, who are you lying to? Yourself, right? So take the time to do that, because you might really, if you start to dig deep enough, you might just find you're not on the right path. Maybe I know a lot of people, I see it happen all the time. People think they have to hop into wholesaling. That's not really what they want to do, but they're like, well, I need a little cash, and then I can buy and hold something, right? And Jay-Z can attest to this because he knows.
We've been there.
I grabbed my first property. Well, first of all, I just want to say the portfolio, the whole thing we have, I've never spent a dime on it. I've never used a dime of my own money for anything, because you don't have to. So people that are wholesaling that wish they were buying and holding, all I can say to you is, why aren't you? Everything you need is out there. You just haven't made the right plan. So go back, figure out what it is you really, why you jumped into this crazy world of real estate in the first place. If you want to be a wholesaler, then be the best freaking wholesaler out there. Tomorrow, your goal should be to wake up, roll out of bed, and be like, who can I contact today? Trust me, those guys that are 7 and 8 figure wholesaling right now, well, I would say pre-AI, if you DM them, they would respond to you, or their assistant would respond to you. Now their AI bot probably would respond to you, but you would get a response. Ask them, can we get a meeting? Those guys block out their times in their calendars every day to just meet with people. Don't be afraid to hop in that room. You always want to be the least smart person in the room, or you're not learning anything, right? We all know this. No front page news there. But that's what you need to be doing. If it's wholesaling you want to do, then every day you should be trying to connect with people who are doing it on a higher level than you. That's the only way you're going to get it done and move forward.
Thank you
And
for
it takes a
bringing
lot,
that, Candy.
guys. It takes a lot. I'm not, like I said, I don't know how many times I laid down at night and cried. Like, God damn. Oh God, is this, am I ever gonna, kind of that 3 feet from gold thing, am I ever gonna get there? It's hard. So if it's not, you don't have the stomach for it, you might need a new plan, because it is hard. Now, there are some people I know in the room that probably have the resources they need. Maybe you've got your own 401k that you can draw from for your business. And that's great. If you have resources and you can deploy them, just make sure you're also, if you've not done that before, you're counseling with somebody who has, so you're not misspending money that you don't need to spend. But most people that I talk to, they don't have any resources, and they're just trying to wholesale a deal, make $5,000-10,000 so they can think they can get started in whatever it is that they really want to do. But you don't have to do that, guys. And there are plenty of people in the community that you can reach out to that can help you get you where you really want to go. But you've got to, I love it, to put hot dogs in my ramen. That's it, Georgie. Whatever makes ramen noodles, you can do some amazing things with. I'm just gonna leave you with that.
That 5K will help out with the hot dogs.
Now, there was kind of to dive in on that, when that 5K, when we talk about that 5K, I actually ended up putting a post out. I think it was the other day. It was the 27-cent post.
Yeah,
And I actually ended up coming up with my tagline that 27 cents is what you get for chasing the wrong $1 million dream.
that's right. That's right.
Because at the end of the day, if, again, to double back on what you said, Angel, if you want to buy, if you want to flip, if you want to lend, go all in on that.
Yeah.
One of the, biggest mistakes, and I shouldn't say mistakes, the biggest lesson that I've ever taken away from the previous years before I really started stepping into understanding who I was, and actually having conversations with, individuals like you and Chris, and, there's nameless others that I've had the pleasure to be able to sit in meetings with, to have the team that we have that's put together and built out and operate at the level that we're operating at right now, and where we are going, and to be able to continuously help each other grow to get to that point. I was building the wrong business. I wanted to buy anyway the entire time, the whole 2.5 years. I was saying something to somebody earlier, and I've mentioned this to other people before too. When I started in real estate, my goal was to get a duplex, none of my own money, buy a duplex, house hack, live in that. You know, don't have to worry about rent anymore or anything like that. At least the income coming in from the other half was going to subsidize. And we jump in, and it's wholesale, 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 boom, boom, boom. The lights are going off. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah, because that's what you have to do. And when I reflected 11 and a half months in, I found that I wasn't even one step closer to that duplex, nor had I done a wholesale deal. My mind was on one business, and my body was in a whole nother business.
Yes.
Now, even more to that, when I finally locked up the deal, finally got in front of the buyer, it took a year to close. First of all, from getting it locked up, it was a $15,000 check. I was so excited. Now, what you don't get from that 27-cent story that I like to let people know as well is we're not tracking our expense and our income when we're at that stage. So 15,000 seemed amazing. It seemed sweet. I was going to be able to do so much with that. Catch up on bills, pay rent, do what I needed. We got food for a little bit. I can take my son to the hotel water park for his birthday because it came just in time. On top of the world.
Mhm.
But realistically, when I look back at it and I looked at the amount of money that we spent to get that 15K, I was still net negative.
Absolutely.
And I wasn't even building out the business that I wanted to.
Yeah. And you know, guys, we can, and most of us have probably done it all our lives, we can try to fool ourselves that we need to do something. And like in your case, I need to wholesale, I need to provide, I need to, make that money. And we can fool ourselves into believing all those things. But ultimately, the rest of you is not going to follow. Your mind might be stuck on, I need to make that $10,000, but your body's not following it. Your heart's not following it. Okay. All those things, you're still going to come up, just like JC said, with a deficit. Always. Even I always like to share this with people too, because I know this is common knowledge, and if it's not to you, I hope it's enlightening to you, but success isn't about making that $1 million or what. You can't chase money, guys. Money has to be a byproduct of your success. That is not your success, nor will it ever be. And that is proven every which way it can be proven, from lottery winners who win $10 million and in 2 years they're broke again. Perfect example. Money always has to be the byproduct of your success. It's not your success. So if that's what you're doing is chasing money right now, you're going to keep chasing it, baby. You're going to keep chasing it.
No, I love that you brought that up, and I don't mean to interject or interrupt,
Oh, no.
because earlier we spoke about how we work together at one capacity. We did have the project that we were collectively involved in. You and me, Chris. There was a couple of other people, and I've never really spoken too much forward face about a lot of like the where I've had my hands in and who I've had my hands in things with, and
Mhm.
to really be able to share those stories. And I think that was one of the ones that was very crucial, and it made me stop and it made me watch what people were doing.
Yeah.
And Chris and I had talked about it. We had a conversation about it, and I'm analytical and I can't really help it. And I'll watch what's going. I might not message you every week. It might be 6 months before I shoot you a text or we jump on a call, but I'm watching. I'm paying
Yeah.
attention to what's going on all the time. Now, as things started to kind of fade and everybody was trying to figure out everything that was going on, what did the next steps look like? Things split off. There were two sides, and I promise you this falls in line with what you were talking about chasing the money. And I got to watch one area chase money, one area truly chase success. Now, what I have found very, very interesting, and this is where I hope that you pat yourself on the back quite a bit, and you get to stop and you get to celebrate yourself. And I told Chris the same thing. When I got to watch you and him step into who you guys were truly meant to be,
Mhm.
wow, did things amplify. Wow, did they amplify. And I was floored.
Thank
And I
you.
didn't know everything at the time and leading up to and before. I didn't know everything. So you didn't get to see the behind the scenes completely. But you can tell that went right out into the world.
Yeah. And it's important. I mean, it's the age-old question, James. Why am I here? You know, and people get so caught up in things, they forget to just learn, fail, and grow. That's what you're meant to do. Ultimately, you're here to learn, fail, grow, and then share. How that fits into your life and your professional life, your personal life is different for all of us, but those are the basic rules. And if you're not following those basic rules, you're going to run into some hiccups, because it's all a part of growth, which is what we're doing from the time we're born till we meet our maker,
Absolutely.
whether it's growing up or growing old. We're here to learn, grow, and share. Nothing more. It's that simple. How you implement that into your daily life is what makes the difference. Like me, Jay-Z, I'm not one that's you're not going to see me in front of the camera very often. It's probably my least favorite thing to do. I
Yeah.
definitely move in silence. My circle is very small, very small. And I do that because I've just learned over the years I have to protect my energy. I have to protect what I'm doing. And I want to be the best I can be. So when you come to me, just like the other day, you come to me with this ideal and you say, well, you think about this, I'm going to give you the best. I'm going to challenge you. And I assure you, whatever it is that we come to and we put our hands on is going to be successful because of that. I don't need to tell everybody what we're doing. I need to bring my best to Jay-Z and go from there and make it happen. So, those are things that I live by. I encourage you guys to also, reflect on that. How can I incorporate what I'm doing on a daily basis by just learning, growing, and failing. Failing's a big part of that. And then sharing. I love fails. I could care less about what somebody's doing. Oh, I did this. Tell me where you messed up. Because there's the lesson. I want to know. I'm not one of those people that has to learn the hard way. I love to listen to people's failures and pull from that. I'm not that hard-headed. I'm a Taurus, but I'm not that hard-headed. Failures are really where the beauty is. Just like love and sadness is really where the beauty is. That's the discovery zone, right? You learn all the things. Why is it making me sad? That those are beautiful moments of reflection where you have an opportunity to learn yourself on a deeper level. You need to do that in business too. It's not, like I said, I'm not all touchy-feely, guys. These are just life lessons that you can implement into your business, and you would be so shocked how you come out the other side of that. It's really an amazing way to transform as a leader. So
100%. You can't give what you don't have. And one of my favorite quotes from Maxwell is, do for one what you want to do for many.
Yeah.
Because how you show up for yourself shows how you show up for your team.
Absolutely.
And how you show up for your team shows how they show up for the industry.
That's
and
right.
that says how your business shows up.
And back to what I said, that the reason why is because they're watching you. If you choose to take that leadership role, and guys, for those of you who that leadership role, you're not feeling it, it's not for you, but you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to do things, that's okay. Go hire that visionary. Go hire whoever it is. And I say this from experience, when we're starting these businesses, oftentimes we get put in positions where we have to do everything. You don't have a team, right? Now, Jay-Z knows. I'll go in, take the transaction coordination side of it. I automated that whole system. Did I want to do it? No. Did I like doing it? Hell no. But I did it because I had to, right? I had a team who I saw doing so many things manually that were taking lots of time, and I wanted to give them the best tools. That was my driver. Chris didn't ask me to do it. The team didn't ask me to do it. I saw an opportunity and was like, man, these guys could crank out, 15 more transactions a month easily if I go in and I automate this and make it simple for them and shoot this off automatically and do this automatically. And so I went into the system. I didn't know the system when we first got it. I didn't know what it was. I had to learn the system, and I learned it, automated it, did it all. My driver was the team. And they were so amazed when we hopped on that Zoom that day, and I said, yeah, I wanted to take them through what the automation looked like. They were so amazed, and just knowing how overwhelmed with gratitude they were that they no longer had to do this, go to 5 different places, go to Trello, go to Pipedrive, go to DocuSign, go to, all these things. It was all they had to do was push a button, boom, took them to the next step, boom, took them to the next step. They were amazed, and that was so rewarding. You have to, again, kind of going back to that leadership thing, you don't always have to be the face to be the leader, guys. That's, a lot of people, say, I'm great at operational side of things, great leader, whatever, but I don't like to, I'm not the face person. I lead from here. That's where I lead from. Everything that we do in business is because I saw an opportunity to make something easier for somebody, to make something faster for somebody, whatever that looks like, that's my leadership style. What's my team doing and where are there those opportunities? How can I help them be the best they can be? All that comes back to those 4 points: learning, growing, failing. You've got to do those things every day. And if you're leading with that, you're reflecting on those points daily, whether it's personal or in business. Not only are you going to be successful, but you're going to create a team that eventually you can walk away from or step back from. I don't want to say walk away from, not really the best choice of words, but at some point that will allow you to pull away, and your team's going to continue to shine and drive that business because now you've created that culture. You've really created that team atmosphere. Oh, Jay-Z, I know we kind of went off a little bit today on a little more of a personal note, but I know we were supposed to be kind of talking a little more about systems and processes. So I do want to just touch on that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And do you mind if I say one more thing
Yeah,
before we move into
absolutely.
that?
Absolutely.
If you do have the time, because you hit on something that's very important about, the different leaders and,
Mhm.
like leading from behind the scenes. It's funny because as soon as you brought that up, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers when we covered that 5 different levels of leadership. Does anybody recognize, George, you're shaking your head. Do you recognize which level Angel was talking about?
Oh man, I wouldn't distinctively say which one it is, but it's more like she was promoted from within by her people. People pushed her to become that leader, and she utilized the skills that she had from previous jobs in the corporate world and molded all up. And boom, now she's in the front. Even though she says she's in the back, when she's in reality in the front. And now
The
she's almost at that pinnacle. I see her at the pinnacle. I hope she sees it as well.
Thanks,
it's
George.
You could say the overall and where she's heading is the pinnacle. That one example is the production, leading by results.
Right.
So she's surpassed the title. People aren't following her because she's the boss.
Mhm.
You know, she's the one coming and giving me gut punches, so I have to listen to what she says, and I've got to do the things, so I have to. And you know, we'll start from, so you have the title, then you move up to the position, um, or sorry, you move up to the permission. You're a leader by relationships. You know, people follow you. Basically, they're following you because they want to. Angel step more into that, the results driven, the leader of production. People are following her now at that point because of the results that they're delivering to those people.
It's
Now, what I
interesting.
find very interesting is because you've mentioned that one type, and this is why I say, George, you are correct, because you also have the people development.
Mhm.
You have these leaders that they might not deliver results, they might not hold a specific title, but they are very good at developing people.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Look, it's Chris in the group. I'm going to talk smack about him if he's here. No, I'm just kidding.
He's not here, so I'll cut this out from the recording and send it to everybody individually.
No, I'm just kidding. But Chris is definitely one. He loves to talk to people. Chris has phenomenal conversations, just phenomenal. He loves to understand people. He loves to understand where they're coming from. And I too love to conversate with people. Um, but I'm more of an observer. So when I speak, people tend to listen because I don't do it a lot. I'm not that person that's out there just talking about everything with everybody. And I observe people, and then I identify how can I help that person without that person even telling me what they need. you know. And that's kind of how I lead. I observe people's work. And if I see George is really struggling, like we'll take transaction coordination again, every transaction he does, he misses this one piece all the time. or he really struggles with this one piece. I give George a little bit to say, hey, Angel, I really, I might need a little more training here. But a lot of times people won't do that. So I like to observe and see where that they keep falling and then go, okay, how can I create the perfect way for this person, for this to connect, right? So, for example, say somebody who's doing a transaction and they just don't quite understand why you need specific information, say for a sub-to transaction, right? Like, why do we have to collect the mortgage logins for this seller? Or why do we have to do these change authorizations and things, for the insurance? Like, some people just can't wrap that stuff around their head. Like, so I look for those opportunities, and then I'll gently bring them up to everyone during a training. I'll really go deep or dive down, and most of the people in the room who get it, who already, that like clicks with them, so they don't have a problem with it. Great. It's just a refresher for them, but I don't ever want to miss that opportunity for George not to start making those same connections. And if George has done it now 5 times and George has never come to me and said, Angel, I don't get it, or I'm struggling with it, that's my gift to George. I would never single you out. I'm going to bring it into a training with the team collectively, and I'm going to post questions, right? Why do you guys think that we do this? Why is it important that we collect this? What does everybody like? What do you think could happen if we don't do this? So that George can start connecting those dots. And then it becomes, oh, I get it. I get it. Now it's making sense, right? But you do that without singling George out, without making George feel uncomfortable, because he may have lived a life where he's never asked anybody for anything, never told anybody he struggled with things. Now I've created that safe space for George to be like, oh, damn, I didn't have to tell her and I get it. Right? And now George feels successful because he can knock that out without any issues. So, you've just got to, if you're going to lead, guys, you've got to find, everybody has a different leadership style, and my style may not be for everyone. But if you're going to lead, figure out who you are as a leader and what's going to work best for you, because you're kind of back to what you're saying, Jay-Z, people are observing you, whether it's your staff, whether it's people in your communities that you're in, whether it's your family, whether it's your kids, you're always being observed. You should also be observing and look for those opportunities. That's how you truly bring value to people. It's not, I'm not knocking anybody here, because Chris and I do also run a mentorship. I mean, ours is only $97 a month, and it's not breaking the bank. It's like a nice steak dinner, but people are charging a lot of money to teach you basic things that can make you successful in your business. And it all starts with you. Now, do I think you should pay for mentorship, especially if it's something that you really want to hone in on? Absolutely. Time is money. And if I'm really going to give you my time on a consistent basis, yes, you should pay me for that, because that's time I could have put into something else and made myself more money, right? So I'm not knocking that piece of it. What I am saying is, again, sit down and self-evaluate, figure out what role you need to stay in, and then connect with those people or that coach or whoever it is that can help you get there. Because there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of hurdles. And if you're smart, like your mama told you back when you were 13 years old, don't make your own mistakes. Learn from other people's. That's the best way to, and the fastest way to move forward. And always look for those opportunities, whether you're in a leadership position or you're just a part of the team. Always look for those opportunities to bring value to somebody else. Zig Ziglar said it the best. If you ever, to get to where you want to go, help somebody else.
Yeah.
That's how you get there. because that value will always be returned to you. Whether, you believe in God or Buddha or whoever, whether you want to call it reap what you sow, karma, every religion has it. Every religion believes it because it exists. It's truly there. Regardless of what you want to call it, whether it's karma or whatever, you reap what you sow. So put out there what you want to get back, and it will come back to you.
And you hit on two things that I personally feel are very important as well. Where you mentioned even if you're on a team, guys, you don't have to be the business owner. You don't have to be the visionary. That's my face is out there. I'm all over the place. People know who I am. You don't necessarily have to be the angels of the crowd where I'm in the, I prefer to be back here really like building the things out. You can be on a team and not in a owner position to still be a leader. When we talk about even having, because I have 4 business partners, we have people within the team. I still consider those, you have those higher level people in those higher level seats. When I look at somebody like my operations manager, I don't look at them as an employee. My operations manager is a leader. So the decisions that we're making and the things that we're doing is to continuously help her develop that side of her, because that's what's going to end up running the rest of the team. We're pouring into her, she's pouring into the team, and the team is pouring into the business. The other one that you hit on is the mentorships and having coaches and having the coach. I wholeheartedly agree 100% with you on that. I've paid for Maxwell, I've paid for Pace, paid
We
for
all
Tony
have.
Robbins,
Yeah.
I've paid for a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Now, do I bat an eye like going into sub 2? And I haven't told this story that much, but getting into sub 2, my car was repossessed the day that we ended up putting the first payment on my wife's credit card to get into sub 2.
Mm-hmm.
We're not always in the best positions to want to move forward with where we want to go. Yeah, literally, it was like an hour before we were on the call, and the tow truck was driving away with my car.
Well, you know what's even funnier, Jay-Z, on that piece? I'll share with everyone. I never had any intention of getting into sub 2. I didn't need to. I mean, let's be honest. If you're an action taker, all you got to do is connect with people in there. You want to get your first deal, you don't have to be in sub 2. Just connect with somebody in sub 2, right?
Yep.
And I only joined sub 2 after I started in the transaction coordination business. And this is before he did top tier and any of that. That didn't exist then. And I only did it because of the networking. I'm like, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to, those are the pool of people I'm pulling from, right? Because I'm a creative TC. So, I did that. But do you know how I did it? Because I didn't have money when I first did it. I know most of you on here probably know Larry Parsons, right?
Yep.
Okay. So Larry was being Larry. I can't remember what happened. He was broke, busted, sitting in an airport, couldn't catch a flight somewhere. Something happened with this flight. And he's like, shit, I don't have any money. How am I going to get somewhere? And he posted, which I knew Larry before this, but I seen a post come on and he says, I'll sell half of my sub 2 mentorship or whatever for $3,000 because he needed to get to wherever it was he was going. So I sent him laughing emojis and I'm like, are you serious? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, so you know what I did? And Jay-Z, you're going to laugh just because the conversation we had the other day. I didn't have $3,000. You know what I did? I reached out to a PML and said, hey, can you lend me that $3,000 for my sub 2 membership? I'll make monthly payments. And that's how I got into sub 2.
Yep. That's awesome. So that it's crazy when you find out how people really do get into some of the things and some of the situations that they put themselves into.
You can't say you're a member of the creative world if you can't get creative, guys. I'm just going to say that first and foremost. Quit saying you're a part of a creative real estate group if you don't know how to be creative, okay?
100%. But you also had that realization, like when you got into the real estate, one of the things that you mentioned was for the networking. You had come to the understanding at that point, whether it was subconscious or consciously, that it was a tool that's meant to be leveraged, and you understood at that point how to leverage that correctly to do what you needed it to do, to get you where you wanted to go. You had the vision, you had the clarity, and now you saw the resource and understood how to utilize it. I see that time and time over with people who talk about, like, oh, I reached out to that person, they want money for their time. Oh, I reached out to that person, their schedule doesn't match up to mine. I can't believe they wouldn't just take the call when I'm able to take the call.
Yeah.
I've spoken about this before, and why I'm so big on mentorships and programs. And, you know, Chris and I sat down and talked about how we can creatively get both of us to the position that we can go through Cody Barton.
Mhm.
Not because like we need all of the information that's in there, but because of the proximity that that opens up to, and the tool
Absolutely.
that that is that we can leverage. What
Absolutely.
most people don't understand, and you hit on this earlier as well, is those big dogs, those top dogs that are out there that are doing these big things. Yes, they are willing to help you. Some of you have heard me say this before, because I've said it in, I believe twice actually, in these Zooms. Most people, when we're in the position that we're down and we're out and we're trying to figure things out, 99% of the people look at the 1% and they're bitter. Oh, they're greedy.
Mhm.
They're greedy. They're not there for me. They're out there for themselves. I can almost guarantee you that you can reach out. If you know a 1%er, you could reach out to that 1%er and you could get the help from them.
Mhm.
Here's the disconnect for most people. It's not on your terms.
Mhm.
This is where being willing to be uncomfortable comes into play. When you want to reach out to somebody, one of those big people, Angel mentioned there's a monetary price point. That's my time. My time, my energy. I do have to protect that. And there's a reason that I have to protect that. I don't bat an eye when I see any sort of price for any sort of mentorship, because I know if it's something that's worth it, that's that 1%er in my life that I have to meet them on their terms to be able to get what I need out of that to excel and push myself forward.
Yeah.
That's the uncomfortable level that we have to push ourselves through in the beginning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's never fun to be uncomfortable, but it's just
100%.
just a part of growth. Got to do it. All right. So,
I didn't expect a lot of the stuff that we talked about, but it's always
Mhm.
interesting having conversations with you, Angel.
Yeah.
And I got to learn some
And I
cool
hope I didn't
facts that
disappoint. I know some people may have hopped on and
not
talked a
me.
little more about systems, but we can do another one. We can drill down in that.
We
Um,
can hit a part two. I'm down for that.
If
yeah.
if we were so too, we know it when pets we go in there for multifamily and somebody asks about mindset and you see them
Oh
fighting like, oh, okay, what's the issue? And then everybody else like, what the hell? But no, overall, Angel is much needed, and I appreciate it. Like say part two will be even better, obviously on your terms, and it's not as long as it's not draining your energy and your time and everything else. But much obliged of being able to share obviously the auditing and also knowing that you were in the world where you had a lot of money, you've been on here, you've been up here, and so where my takeaway is not really about the money, it's about what drives you every day to basically wake you up and
Yeah.
keep moving and finally finding the right people around you. And obviously if you outgrow them, now it's time to keep getting uncomfortable to the next level.
And I don't,
100%.
I think a lot of people take that lightly. Um, when they say, you start to grow, it doesn't mean, guys, and I just want to be clear about that. It doesn't mean you got to get rid of everybody you're hanging out with, you're showing, having an accountability meeting with, whatever. You will find yourself going through levels. I just encourage you that as you move, don't forget the people behind you that haven't quite got it yet. As you move up, that's okay. You do need to do that. You do need to find that appropriate growth space for you, but pay it backwards. You know, the people that you were sitting in that accountability group with for the last 6 months, you finally get your breakthrough. Just make sure you go back. You say, hey, this is what I did. That's, we all naturally are teachers. I mean, I'm just gonna, I don't mean to get gender specific here, but women, we do that naturally because we're built for children. We're natural teachers. That
Mama
just
comes
comes
out.
very naturally to us. Um, but guys, you too. I mean, we all have an already ingrained ability to teach. So just don't lose that. I know sometimes we bury that because we think we have bigger goals to achieve and things like that. That should always be a part of everything you're doing. Always. Because you do teach to learn. That's no new concept. I'm sure everybody's heard that. You do. That's the best way to learn is to teach. So just make sure, because George, kind of back to your point, you know, we are all on different paths. We all have different incomes.
Right.
And some of us are blessed now that we can pay for, greater mentorships or do all these things. But don't forget the people that were where you were at one point,
Right.
that don't have the money, but you see they have the action. Now, kind of back to my ball buster thing, I'll bust your balls in a minute. Don't get me wrong. If if I'm taking time and I'm spending time with you and I'm
Right.
telling you these are the things you need to be doing and you're jacking off, I'm going to give it to you.
Right.
That's it. But um, that's you've got to bring other people up with you.
Right.
Remember where you were and take the time to share that knowledge and share that growth with other people because we're better as a collective. I think PACE is probably one of the greatest examples of that. Lots of people have tried to create some type of community like PACE has. That's a whole different breed. I mean, that's PACE is truly value driven. I mean, not that you don't have to pay for his mentorship or you don't have to pay to be in Gator or all those things, but
Right.
those things were built after. His vision is still the same as it was the day he walked in the door. And
Right.
that's, I'm going to bring you value. I'm going to teach you. I mean, everybody remembers his story of like how he started. He met all these people at a gas station every day and was taking them, showing them how to door knock and
Yeah.
do things like that. That's always been ingrained in him is to teach other people and to bring them value. And he's done a wonderful job exemplifying that and teaching his community to do that. So I'm probably can assume everybody in here is not in sub two. Um, and I'm not telling you to rush out and buy the mentorship, or do any of that. But if you're not, and I would say connect with somebody that is in sub two because it's a collective mindset that that is your sole job is to bring value to each other. Every business dealing you do, every relationship you build with lenders, all those things that you have to bring value to those people. And it just kind of back to that, George. It's just don't forget, guys, as you do learn these things to bring others up
Yeah.
with you and to teach them. And everybody gets busy. I'm so guilty of that, especially this week with the tornadoes that happen and all that craziness. But I don't answer every DM. I can't always answer every call. It may be 3 days later before I get back to you because I'm doing business, and that has to come first. And then, there's the family and things like that. But um, don't just get where you're going and forget that somebody helped you get where you were going. That should always be your driver.
Facts.
The power of proximity and the power of networking. Um,
Absolutely.
Angel, we actually had on the last Zoom, and why I'm so humbled to have the people that I have that do show up to these Zooms every week. We have a gentleman, he's not in here tonight, but he's over in India. And I still remember the first time he reached out to me, I ignored the message because it read to me it was another one of those I'll pull list for you. I can get you buyers, I can get you sellers and all that. So I ignored the first one. And he reached out again and then we ended up having a conversation and I found out that he was legitimately trying to earn his stripes and be in real estate. He had goals for him and his family and this was something he legitimately wanted to do. He didn't want to try to sell me a list. He wanted to try to learn real estate and start to learn business. And he pops into the meetings, from time to time. He's not in sub two or anything like that. He's had the bad raps of people that he's worked with, but we've been able to foster a community collectively, a little area, and this is nothing compared to what you're talking about too with sub two. And like, I'm forever grateful to even be able to be a part of that and have that proximity. you know I probably, maybe years down the line when we were a lot bigger, would have been able to finally meet like you and Chris, and we would have been having conversations. But had we not had that power of proximity, had we had that not had that power and the ability to be able to network, who knows, if this Zoom would have even have existed, if half of the business ideas would have existed. But this gentleman still shows up, comes in late. It's early morning for him now. Now the daylight savings happened. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. And he decided to show up and verbalize and speak into the world and to everybody that was in the Zoom things that he had going on. And we happen to have people that are heavy hitters in their lane that aren't out there, aren't forward facing. People don't know about them. George, amazing individual. I've gotten to work with him for the last couple months and really see him shine and step into who he is and what he has going on. Dick, another gentleman who, the knowledge that guy has and the things that he can do, and just proximity and networking, the three of them have been able to band together and they're working a deal. Now, Shaswat's not in sub two. He's not in the community. He doesn't know anything really about real estate. He's trying to earn those stripes.
Daisy, I'm sorry to interrupt. Guys, give me one second. My son actually just locked himself out of the house. Let me go open the door for him real quick.
Jay-Z, on that point though, I want to thank you for being who I thought you were, because I brought Shaswat over here. And when I first met Shaz, he was like, Naomi, can you teach me to speak American? Right? Like, I see you do well in these Zoom rooms. How do I get this Indian accent out? And I was like, dude, what? Like, lean into that. Like, that's your superpower, right? Because I get it. There are going to be some people that are going to hear your voice and they're going to be like, oh, this is some scammy foreigner, right? But I said, once you find your tribe, though, like, you're going to be a wonderful addition to the group. And then I also showed him Prakash and Shai, right? I said, look at these Indian men, right? They are not trying to mask their thick accents. They are taking Texas by storm, right? And it just requires the proximity, to your point, Jay-Z. Like, if you're in the right room with the right people who have the right moral compass, who are doing it for the right reason, who are not just strictly transactional, but they believe in paying it back. Because I'm not that far ahead, but I've been drinking from the fire hose for 2 years, so I know a lot of stuff. And so if I can help somebody to get to where I'm at, you know what I'm saying? Because back to the Zig Ziglar thing, my goal for first quarter was to learn how money worked. My goal for second quarter was to acquire my first property. I was tunnel vision focused, thanks to, Jay-Z and this, figure out the clarity piece, get the clarity. And I'm an extreme visionary, so that was hard because everyone's like, do one thing, and that's not how my brain works. I solve complex problems. And so when I found my niche, it was revitalizer of cities. That means I got to do all the property classes. That means I got to bring businesses here. That means and I've been doing it. After I tuned out the naysayers that said, like, don't start there, I started finding people that could help me facilitate the vision. And so when I met Shaz, I was like, I'm working on becoming a world-class leader. Like, I'm working on figuring out how to delegate, what my systems and operation needs to look like. I've just been drinking from the fire hose and networking like crazy. And I know all these pieces fit together somehow. And I'll figure that out when I feel like I got enough pieces, right? But I don't know what to tell you to do. Go see Jay-Z, because, maybe he's got a spot on his team, but if nothing else, he's got a community that's not going to judge you for your accent. That's not going to, look at you as some weird foreigner. This guy's 22 years old. You hear his grandma snoring in the background when you're on the phone with him, right? Because it's a small home that they live in. But this guy's gonna make it because he's got that mindset. He's got that steely reserve, and he's going to get in the right rooms, because this room's going to lead to another room, going to lead to another room, right? And then we'll be around one percenters like Jay-Z and Angel. You know what I'm saying? In person.
Yeah.
We'll be inviting you good people to our house for a meal. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, thank you for being who I thought you was, Jay-Z, because he was really apprehensive about everyone thinking, oh, he's just some scammy foreigner. I said, well, you do got to quit some of them posts. You know what I'm saying? We need to fix the English on some of them posts. It is given scammy.
You told him
Okay.
that too?
I totally told him that. I'm like, dude, he had responded to one dude's post, and he was like, I'm in love with you. I said, bro, take the "in" out. Okay. All right. You got to say you love the man. You can't say you're in love with him. That changes the dynamic. So yeah, I totally. And then he responded to some of my posts. And he be saying the wrong stuff. I just have sometimes I correct him. Sometimes I just delete his comment, but I always give him feedback. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, okay, you don't want to say that. But yeah, he's an awesome dude. He's an awesome dude. So
Oh,
if
yeah,
you guys see Shaswat
absolutely.
Kumar, he's a real person.
Naomi, I think that
Absolutely.
is
Speak
just
of the devil.
phenomenal. Yeah, you probably have no idea how important that feedback is to him. You know, and even I love that you have the nerve to say
Shaswat, we just talked him up. He's in the building now.
That's why I
Shaswat.
said, speak of the devil.
Ears
As
were
soon as we
burning.
stopped, he was in there.
Yes, we were just there. That is so funny.
funny.
But yeah, so Angel, I know you were saying earlier, like, I know you guys thought this was going to be systems and all of that, but this was still on time, because one of the things that I've learned from being in this room is how important clarity is before you could even start building out systems and operations. And clarity is a funny thing, because you can think you've got your vision, and then, like you say, if it's a money motivated thing, that ain't gonna be it. You know what I'm saying? If it's a particular dot, that it's not gonna get you there. My vision as an extreme visionary has evolved. I started out wanting to help the housing authority here, but because I'm in a market that I'm trying to create the momentum in, I knew that I was going to have to learn it intimately in order to attract investors. Well, it was kind of like how when we drop something between the stove and the refrigerator and we got to move the stove out of the way, and we see all that stuff, that debris over there, it's like, who's going to move the stove back? Not a woman. Okay, we going to clean that thing up. And so as I started doing that, I found all these other problems. So I'm like, well, I've been drinking from the fire hose all this time. I know how to solve that. I know how to solve that. And I know how to solve that. Like, how am I supposed to just pick one problem when there's so many of them? Okay. So now I just got to figure out how to build a team around this. How do I get this thing, streamlined so that I can do it? So I was tunnel vision focused on the Gary project. Just get back to the Zig Ziglar thing. And I was like finally focused so that I can come back to Jay-Z and say, okay, I know what I did do for operations. And a friend of mine had a 24 unit in St. Louis that she's trying to turn into a veterans home. Well, she was trying to do something else, but I said, you're 5 minutes from the VA and a $2 billion government complex. Like, we should use this for that. Okay. This is an emerging market. So now I got my secondary market. And in helping her facilitate her deal, I end up with equity. So now I get to learn the money and get my acquisition, killing two birds with one stone, because I stopped focusing on what I was doing to help someone who had a time sensitive situation. Right. I had already started my inroads. My city with over 10,000 vacant parcels ain't going nowhere. Let me help her for this couple of months, right? Because it's going to help me learn the money, which is what my first quarter goal was. Just so happened it became so intricate that I earned equity, right? But I led with value. I didn't come in saying, look, if you want me to help you, you got to give me a percent of your business. No, I started with just giving her referrals, not even looking for a connector fee. But when I saw that she didn't have what it took to facilitate it, I was like, okay, you need more help than that. Like, your project manager sucks. Your copy sucks. You don't have you don't have a pitch deck. Your scope of work is riddled with grammatical errors. Like, I can't help represent you if your stuff look like this. So now I had to learn Canva. I had to learn ChatGPT so I could help her. But that's going to help me when I come back to the Gary project, because now I'll be able to put together a visually aesthetic, you know what I'm saying? Now I've learned about tax abatements and how to get 100 million from, well, I'm still learning how to get 100 million from a hedge fund, but I'm trying to do a zip code at a time. So when you don't let nobody kill your vision and you just get more dialed in and just more specific and more, you can have that fire that Angel has. Like, I'm not giving up. Like, I know what I'm looking to accomplish here. I mean, I know how to do it, but as long as I figure out what I'm missing, I'm 10 toes down. My truck just got repossessed 2 months ago. Okay. I didn't do anything for active income for the last year because I needed to get focused. I'm an extreme visionary with ADHD, so I need to really focus. So I sat back and just watched stuff happening, eating ramen. Okay. Went from crab legs to ramen. And I'm king crab, okay, not the regular ones, because ain't nobody working that hard for no little piece of meat. Okay. And went to ramen and said, okay. And then the pieces started coming together. It was almost organic, but you know, you don't feel like you're working when you're doing something that you're passionate about. And so, you know, I found out what that really meant to you'll get what you want if you help enough people. Because I want to own property. I want to help veterans. I want to know how to, you know what I'm saying, do these big plays. So
Hey,
man,
Dave, the first buy and hold I ever did, I brought the deal to the table. I negotiated the terms. I did all the things. Do you know what my percentage was?
what?
6%. And just, oh, that face you made, that's a perfect example. Because when I tell people that, they're like, 6%, what?
6% of what? Like, how big was the deal?
You know, it, even if it had been $6,000 equivalent, what that did for me was open the door to learning everything I needed to learn about being a landlord, about how to run a property, how to find property management, how to get the right insurance policies in place, all the things. It didn't cost me anything. I talked to the seller, I negotiated the deal. That's all it cost me.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end of that experience, I took it and ran. And now I know how to do this myself, right? That little 6% was worth everything because I didn't have any money at the time. I couldn't have paid 20. I learned more than I've dropped on a $10,000 coaching program.
Mm-hmm.
That one little 6% taught me everything I needed to know. So I ate ramen noodles during that time. And now people call me because they don't know how to operate. They don't know how to, people want to jump into co-living all the time. You can't just jump into co-living, first of all, first and foremost.
No.
And they found that out. They be the, you know, everybody works them up. Oh, these are great incomers, but you have to know how to operate these things too, right? So we have people that call us and they buy these and they don't know how to operate them. You know how many opportunities, you know, money making opportunities I've had because of that, because I do know how to operate appropriately, because I've created systems where I'm totally hands off. We're generating thousands of dollars a month and I don't have to do anything for it because we created the right system. Every once in a blue moon, like the tornadoes the other day, property manager called, you know, got to go out there and we got to discuss through, you know, what that looks like for filing the claim and things like that. So you'll have those odd times when you do have to be involved in some way. But on the day to day, if you don't have your systems and things like that set up, you're just going to be a hands-on landlord. I don't know how many people in this room are. It sucks. And I would never recommend it.
Right.
Make sure that your margins are always so you can pay somebody else to do it because you're trying to create true passive income. So if you still have your hands on it every day, that's not passive income, guys. I can now, going from 6% a few years ago, can now teach people how to do it hands off and make true passive income. And that's my wealth. That's my wealth. And I'm okay. My bills are paid, right? I can do whatever I want to do at this point.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean to scratch my face up at the 6%, you know.
No, but it's a natural reaction.
Yeah.
People think, you know, I've got to earn 50. We're going to JV on this. It's going to be 50-50. Well, what are you really bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? I couldn't bring any knowledge. What was I really bringing to the table? any good closer can close a deal, negotiate a decent contract, right? What was I really bringing to the table? I wasn't bringing the money. Wasn't bringing
Yeah.
any loan products to pay for the deal. I certainly wasn't bringing any knowledge because I had no landlord or operator knowledge in that respect.
I think that's why my face balled up, because I was thinking about what I have done in her deal,
Yeah.
which is a lot.
Yeah.
Like I had to learn some stuff to make her situation better. I had to get a new project manager. I
Yeah.
had to find the money. I had to do everything. Like she's had the property for 2 years and hasn't done anything with it, and she had given up and started working under somebody else, cold calling. I'm like, how are you sitting over here with $1 million in equity on this deal and you given up?
Yeah.
You know? So I had to breathe new life into it. I had to motivate. I had to handle all the phone calls because she's not really good at selling the vision or articulating things, or, you know what I mean? She's a doctor of medicine. So she's like, just not her wheelhouse. So, you know, and she's 70. So technology is not her friend either. But I get it. That 6%, and you get that experience. That is priceless, because success leaves clues, and people like us know how to take the baton and run with it. Okay, just give me a little piece. I'm gonna figure it out. Figure it out.
Sure
So
does.
You build
absolutely,
that
well done, Angel.
credibility too.
Yeah.
You build that credibility as well. I mean, the 6%,
Yeah.
it might not seem like much when you're in it, because yeah, we're all there when we get that first break. It's never big. I'm sorry, I'll be that bearer of bad news, and I
Yeah.
will tell everybody in here straight up, there is no fast track to making $100,000 a month. It unfortunately doesn't work that way. Your
Mhm.
first break, for 99% of people, it's going to be peanuts.
Yeah.
It's not going to be anything that's going to be comfortable. And that's what most of us are chasing when we first get into it. And you brought up something that, people throw out there, 50-50, 50-50, 50-50. I've run into that so many times when I was wholesaling. And I'm like, 50-50, bro. Like, I built out the CRM. I'm the one making the calls on this. Like, I understand you brought the last piece to complete the deal, but I'm paying for all of the systems on the back end, and I'm not getting 50%. And oh my God, I can go off on a tangent just about that alone. Like, I mean, George knows we've had this conversation. We've had sat down and had the conversation of like, okay, so if we did a deal together in this capacity, like, what does that look like? It's like, all right, well, let's think about this real quick. I know you're building out a team and you've got stuff that you're paying for. I've got a team, I've got stuff that we're paying for. Why don't we do this? I don't want to say 50-50 because your expense might actually be higher than mine, and that wouldn't be fair. How about we take the money that comes in, let's pay off all the expenses first, and then we'll divvy up what's left over, and we'll take that as the profit and we'll run with it. If that just so happens to be that we're both only getting $500 from that deal, then we're both only getting $500 from that deal, and we're on to the next one and shooting for that volume.
Absolutely. Well, you can.
Yeah, I asked her, I said, I know you're in a position of, you know, the clock's running out. I don't want you to negotiate from that, like, because, you know, the vultures start circling when they see that, you know, they see blood. And I said, I don't want you to, I waited until I had worked really hard on her deal for a good month before I had the conversation. And I said, what percentage of equity would you feel would be fair? Like, what do you feel like I've earned in this business? And first thing she said was 50-50. I said, that sounds like desperation. That sounds like someone that, like, you're afraid I'm going to leave if you say the wrong number. That's not what's going to happen. I just want to know, I want to know how to value my support, like what I've brought to the table. And she says, well, you know, project manager's got to get 1%, and this person's got to get 1%. You know, I think 30% is fair. 30% is more than I was looking for. Okay. This is a 24 unit that's gonna cash flow 2,000 per apartment. Okay. I listen, I ain't gonna argue with you, honey. But I do, you know, check her temperature periodically, but I don't really have to, because she's always like, Naomi, I don't know what I'd be doing without you. You know, I couldn't figure it out. I had given up. I had lost hope, right? And so I think that you should know your value, right? And it shouldn't just be the value you put on yourself. It should be what do other people assess your value at.
Yep.
Because that also can help you figure out where growth is necessary. You know,
Oh yeah,
EQ, emotional
have those
intelligence.
have those conversations. Like I said, I know I'm gonna pick on George again because I mean we had that conversation. We sat down. It's like, all right, well, if we're gonna do a split and we're gonna do it that way, those percentages are gonna be based off of what resources am I pulling into it versus what resources that you're pulling into it. Even after expenses are paid for, the team's paid out, the systems are paid for that month, who, like, what was the value that was brought from either side? And then that's when we'll pinpoint when we have that left over and what we're splitting. Angel touched on something that was extremely important as well a little bit ago about, self-managed landlords. Whew, that even on our first deal, that's the first thing that we brought up was like, we need to make sure that we're factoring in somebody to take care of that. TC, I know a person, I know a couple really good people. TC, I see people all the time. I've seen posts about like who will do it for no upfront, who will do it and they'll only take payment if the deal closes, who will do it. You know how important that is? Giving up that extra piece of the pie. Again, we talk about uncomfortable, being uncomfortable as we navigate through this. Yes, it is uncomfortable. Is it worth it? 100%.
Yeah.
Of,
And, it's
yeah.
kind of those uncomfortable conversations. It's funny that you brought that up. I just had this past week someone who never had this person as a client before, but they're a really big time doing a lot of business. We'll say that. And so I'm on the phone with the guy, and he's really, brash, and he's like, I don't know you from Adam. Why would I send you X amount of money? And I don't know, what you're doing. I don't know what kind of work you do. You could be just taking my money, whatever. And so I, just let him go on. And I said, well, I know this is not your first rodeo, because like I said, he's doing tons of business. I said, I know this is not your first rodeo. And I would assume that nobody works for free, right? And he said, eh. And we actually got off the phone, because I'm like, I don't need you that bad. I truly know what we're bringing to the table. I know the value that I bring, and I'm not okay with compromising that. You want to find a free for all TC that hasn't established that value with what they're doing? Go ahead. You're not my client. That's just not what I'm doing. We ended up calling back and apologizing for being brash, and ended up paying the deposit and moving forward and all that stuff. But I really think it's like sometimes people forget as they move up, you have to respect where other people are. Because as you grow, you will find many opportunities where you could take advantage of people. You could say it's my way or the highway. And because that person's in a off position, they'll do whatever it is that you need them to do, right? Because they need to earn that money, or they need to do these things. And it's so important, guys. Doesn't matter where you're at on the ladder. Know your value. And that's kind of back to you, Naomi. You, even before you ask that lady that question, you should already know the answer, because you should know your value, right? Understand what it is in value you can bring to people, and stand firm on that. And if somebody doesn't respect that value, move on. They're not for you. And it's okay. And it's okay.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to touch on that, because when you were talking about that value, it's
Oh, I would have never went for less than 25%. I was doing way too much for her. Okay. And if she would have reiterated the 50, I'd have took that too, because I've done more for the deal than she has. But she was the bold one who sunk her $50,000 into the down payment. She structured it all the way wrong. It was a non-performing asset. She's paying $1,500 a month in interest-only payments. She did a lot of things wrong. And I just, I'm coming in the 11th hour and working to get it across the finish line. And it's still not quite there yet. April 30th is our deadline. to secure this funding. But I've had some really good conversations with lenders this week. So I think we're in a position where I think I might have found the lender that with just a good credit score, we don't need to have the reserves. We don't need to have the down payment. Everything will be rolled into it. The points, everything is rolled into it. Right. And so I'm like, I didn't give up. It was looking daunting. You know what I'm saying? Lenders is like, look, we just get in the game. You ain't got 300,000 in the bank. You know, like, no, man, that's why I'm coming to you. I need a milli. You know, you can't ask for no milli and you ain't got 300,000. So I had to get kicked in the teeth lots and lots of times. When she gets kicked in the teeth, she sits down and cowers in the corner. I'm like, come on, where the next one at? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm gonna get somebody. Yes. Who's got my money? That's the only Grant Cardone line I like because he's kind of crass too. But who's got my money? Period. And you know, so she needed that person that wasn't going to give up. And I'm confident that we're going to get this thing across the finish line. I'm also looking for investors on this Texas RV park, 10 acres of waterfront property. If you're interested, Angel, we could partner on it, girly. I'm just saying, I don't know.
Yeah, that's not something I've dove into yet, is RV parks. I've looked over a few, and it's just not been intriguing enough for me yet. I really have to say, I mean, right now, our bread and butter is co-living. And I guess I'll explain it this way, because we have LTRs, we have MTRs, we have STRs, we have some corporate rentals, and we also have some small commercial in addition to the pad splits, co-living ones that we have. And even in comparison to the small multifamily and commercial, Chris and I have built our system so beautifully that that's the one thing that nets the most and is the most hands-off. And again, I'm just going to say this from experience. When you hit those kind of bubbles, because real estate's a true risk, it can go all wrong really fast in a lot of ways. So when you can find something that's that stable, producing that much money, and you can truly be hands off, to me, it's pure stupidity to not continue to do it.
Which property is this you're talking about?
These are all of our pad splits, our
pad splits, the co-livings. Okay.
Co-living, yeah. And I say pad split just because that's the model that we use, but it doesn't make sense to go backwards. Why would I now go grab another LTR for $500 a month when I have the same single family house over here that's netting us $5,000 netting? You know, it would be insane to continue to drive that way. Now, multifamily is always, there's always money to be made there, and we'll continue to do those. We'll also continue to do luxury flips. Great money to be made there. But not everybody wants to do that, and I get that. You may like to grow slowly over a period of time. Some people like to keep their W-2 while they're building their portfolios and all that, and long-term rentals will get you there too. People have been doing it for eons now. We know it works, and you're still gaining, but it took a while to figure out like hit that sweet spot. And for us, that's just a sweet spot. We've been really blessed with it. We have great occupancy rate. We have great tenants. I mean, our tenants are really good. We've had a few incidents, but very few. And I think it's because we're so passionate about it. We really went all in to learn every aspect, every nook and cranny, everything that we could do to make them the best, make them the most efficient, build those ecosystems in the areas that we're in. So I say all this to say, when you find that one thing that you're like, yes, this is it for me, this feels good, whether it's long-term rentals, maybe you're into short-term, maybe you like Airbnbs, whatever that is, whatever that you're doing that makes you feel good, get those systems and processes in place. Because no matter what it is, you're going to want to expand at some point, right? What I see people do is they say start out in long-term rentals, and they really still don't have that system right. They're still playing landlord all the time, but now they're like, oh, I want to jump into co-living. I can make 5 times as much in co-living, right? And they don't have that system, those systems and processes set up. So now they're going to start juggling 2 things with no systems and no processes set up, and it's all going to go to shit, right? It's inevitable. So, you know, stay focused, figure out where you want to be, what you want to be doing, and start with that and get those systems and processes. Even like Naomi, if it's just you want to be that person who kind of goes in, you really did pick a big goal with a lot of moving parts. So
They call me the Naomi the fixer. I'm a fixer, so that's kind of what I do. Like
the
I
first thing that you
love
should
people.
fix is your team. You need to get a team because you're going to be doing too many things and it's going to slow you down. You will not see growth because your head is in too many places. So that's what you should be looking for right now. Oh, and this is what I was going to touch on earlier, Jay-Z, and we got sidetracked. I know when we say those things, like, you know, start to build your team, the first thing that happens is people are like, I don't have nothing to pay them. How am I going to pay people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? That is truly like most people's obstacle from going and hiring, even if it's a VA, whatever. People, there are so many people in this community that are already working for free every day. First and foremost, how many people have been sitting in the community for 2 or 3 years and still don't have a dime, haven't made a dime on real estate, haven't done anything, but they're trying, right? They're still pushing forward. What's the difference of them not making money on their own and starting out not making money with you? What's the difference?
Yeah. Do you
It's
mind if I
you,
add to that?
and it's you. If you can't tell that person truly what is your vision for the business, what's the mission of the business, that's your buy-in. That's how people, oh, I want to work with Angel because she's doing this. I really believe in what it is that she's doing. And those people will come work for you for commission, right? Because we're going to grow together. So the more money I'm making, the more money you're making. So you don't let that be, if you're wondering like, how am I going to pay people? Don't. There's already plenty of people out there not making any money, but they still want to be in real estate. They still want to do this. So get your vision and your mission very clear, and that's what you're promoting to that person.
Mm-hmm.
The right person will be like, yes, Angel, yes, this is exactly what I wanted to do. Cool, let's grow together. Let's do it.
Do you mind
Well,
if I add to
Jay-Z
that,
pushed
Angel?
me into starting to build my team too. So I do have a project manager now because of that. And I'm also partnered with a doctor. The doctor is, she's going to handle the benefits and things like that, making sure that the veterans have the health services and things like that. And I met a young lady that I invited here today who's in the chat. I'm looking forward to seeing how Essence fits into our team. So I am building the team as the vision gets more and more clear. And it's funny because the way I met my project manager was I was in a Zoom and I was talking about I've discovered a team who does nothing but conversions of old hotels into workforce housing. And I got somebody who does nothing but novations here. And I got somebody to do, because that's what I did for the past year, which is network. And he said, I was listening to you in that Zoom. And I'm like, why does she think she need all those different teams? She just needs a project manager to get stuff done. But I didn't know what I didn't know. I don't begrudge the year of research that I did though, because I was able to see a lot of politics in a lot of these real estate communities. I saw some falls from glory. I saw some, and I also made some amazing connections. I can get you 12 tiny houses on a flatbed, okay, for wholesale prices. I got plugs now, okay. I got exclusive distribution of Viva Box modular homes with rooftop decks. Right? Okay, I can get you plugged. That's what I'm saying. So if you want to get in on this RV park, it's hands off. Okay, because my partner on this was the vice president of Marcus and Millichap, but I met him through my project manager. So again, I'm not getting off focus. The Gary Project and revitalizing cities is still my thing. I'm figuring out what people need to do, which I mean, I pretty much know. Anyway, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to all the clarity, but I did a lot and I know a lot and I've done enough to get started. So that's why, I didn't jump in with both feet. You know what I'm saying? My truck got repossessed, but that was a $50,000 truck. The truck I wanted was $100,000. So I feel like it just made room for my Escalade. you know, and I'll
There
hopefully have that by
you
the
go.
end of the year, you know.
And do you mind if I add to that, Angel, too? Because
Yeah.
so the two biggest roadblocks, personally, and you could probably speak on this as well, because the irony of being able to work together in the past and how it works out. Not only I always get the objection from people that how am I going to pay these people up front? I've got no money in the bank and I'm trying to put this together. The other thing is who's going to want to work for me because I'm in this community of a bunch of people that got into the community because they want to be entrepreneurs and business owners. Business owners and entrepreneurs are two different things. And Angel, you hit the nail on the head about having clarity, being clear, understanding where this train is going. You are selling that to these people. Now, before everybody here got into any sort of community with real estate, how many people did you actually think were trying to start businesses or trying to do real estate? Probably not many
Yeah.
when you
No.
were still really deep into the W 2.
Yeah, no. I mean, just wasn't even on my radar.
No, 100%. Now, now that you're in the community, you've been in, we've been in the community for a while. That starts to become our whole world. Now, everybody that we know or we feel that we know wants to be a business owner. So when we start thinking about putting our team together, our minds immediately go to that. They're like, well, everybody that I know, they want to have their own business, they want to do their own thing. Now, one of the common things that I've seen in these groups are a lot of people that, like you said, that sit idle for a year. They haven't made money. They haven't made money in over a year. And these people start to learn and understand, like, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to make those decisions. Maybe I don't want to be a business owner. I still
Right.
want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't want to be a business owner.
Yeah.
Boom. Naomi, that's where you step in, girl. And you're like, okay, well, I have this whole big, like, I know exactly where we're going. I've got this vision. We're rebuilding this city out, and I need to start putting people into the seats to be able to make this happen. You just sold that vision to people in a community that you thought were just people that wanted to be business owners. There are still a lot more people that don't want the responsibility that you're willing to take on and will come in and
True.
work for you if you sell that vision correctly. Now, there
Facts.
was a point that you made earlier as well that I wanted to really double down on because I don't know if everybody else caught that you said that. And again, I can't help because I analyze and I watch when people speak. You hit on the values as well and the respect and how important that is. And again, I've got to watch, I've seen people climb, I've seen people fall, I've seen people look like they've got spurts out of nowhere. For everybody that is diving into this, and you're for sure, this is what you want to do. This is what you're working for. This is what you're working towards. Hold on to those values. Once you pinpoint those, hold on to those. We talk about being uncomfortable, being in uncomfortable positions. We've talked about people wanting to go immediately for that 50-50. Angel, you shared a story about the gentleman that was like, why should I pay you up front? Because I don't know you, Adam from Steve.
Yeah.
And you walked away from that. I can almost guarantee there were plenty of times in the beginning of your journey that you walked away from. And I had this conversation with Chris too, where we've had success thrown in our face
Mm-hmm.
and walked away from it because of the person that threw that success in your face, the people that did, the team that did, because they didn't match with our values
Mm-hmm.
and where we were going and who we wanted to be. Stay true to that. If it means that you're going to be uncomfortable a little bit longer and you're only getting 6%,
Yeah.
stick through it. And
Mm-hmm.
none of you guys are alone. None of you guys are the only ones that have gone through this or are going through this experience. All of us have. And the people that you see rise, and the reason I'm so humbled to be able to have the audience of people like Angel and Chris and to be in those rooms and to have those conversations because the people that you see that are, running Zooms like this, because Chris and Angel, they have their Zooms as well. And we're putting together these pockets and these communities that are starting to mesh together, and people that are working together, and they're learning from us, they're seeing us, they're watching us. Those are the people that have stuck to those values and have been willing to be uncomfortable, have been willing to step away from something because it didn't match where they were going and what they were doing, and it didn't match them. It didn't sit right. Don't let people walk all over you
Yeah.
just because you want to get out of an uncomfortable situation. Gain that clarity, take those steps. Once you have your hand on it, you can pinch that. It might drag you. Let it drag you. If it matches, it holds true to who you are and where you go, let it drag you, because then you get
Well, and you're growing.
wonderful conversations. Yeah.
I so love it here. You know, Jay-Z, I don't know if that was you who said this, who brought out the statistic that a company that has good company culture is gonna outpace somebody with the best systems and operation. Like if your company culture is tight, that unity is there.
Yeah.
Because everybody that I talk to that's a newbie and it's like, oh my God, Naomi, da, 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 da. I say, listen, I encourage you to go out, meet other people, date people, figure out, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need you to kind of know where you want to go. I need you to know who you are as a person. I need you to be intentional about self-development because I'm super intentional about it. Because the most difficult or tedious, should I say, part about this journey is finding the right people that align
100%.
with you on values and all the things that really, really matter. You have to have one heck of a filter to your point, JC, when you walk into these rooms, because there's going to be a lot of snakes and a lot of vultures and a lot of weird energies. Okay. You got to know who you are, protect your peace by all means, because you may have to be uncomfortable for a little bit longer. I feel like I'm way behind schedule. I've been in real estate for 2 years. I got my first contract 3 days into sub two. I had my first deal closed within 3 months off of a Zillow Fizbo, okay, of all things. And wholesaling came very easy, but it didn't feel right. It didn't sit right in my spirit. The people that I had to work with, the buyers, they were getting mad at me, talking about I'm leaving too much money on the table, I'm giving too much to the seller, and I need to go work for Red Cross. And I'm like, look, why do you think you're entitled to 75% of their property?
Right.
Just because they're in a bad situation. Like there's enough equity for you to get 50,000 on a $100,000 property. Why is you trying to go back and renegotiate for the seller to get 30,000? Like you're just doing too much. So, I had to just go on my own route. And then when I did turn my focus here, I said, I can't do this thing virtually. I got to get to know folks. I got to be able to do it here. The buyers didn't want to do the areas that I wanted to see revitalized. They wanted the best return on investment. And I get that money matters. But like to Angel's point earlier, if you lead with how can I help people? How can I solve problems? The money's gonna come. When I moved that stove and figured out all the problems Gary had, they ain't got no women's shelter. Minimum wage is $7.25. They need co-living here. We got the largest Hispanic population. Lease options would fly because I'm not gonna be nobody landlord. But I do have all the brokers and agents in my pocket now that can reach out and sell these properties. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna get them out of my portfolio as quickly as possible, or put somebody in a lease option and connect them with my credit repair person so that they can get, you know what I'm saying? And I can connect them to the contractor union that I'm plugged with, that they can get the skills to pay the bills. You know what I mean? I can meet people where they are. I've met all the people that I need to connect the people with to meet them where they are. Now I just got to figure out how to get 100 million from the hedge fund so I can do the zip code. But I know that it's been done by somebody else, so that means I can do it.
Right.
That part.
And yeah, we were talking about, that was the Zoom that actually um, brought up the post that we created, that filter process when we were looking for the operations manager directly from the post, and it narrowed down. Instead of 100 people reaching out to me, 10 people reached out to me, and I knew the second person that I spoke to, I want to hire her. I want her to meet the rest of the team, and I want to bring her on. And when you have those values, when you understand the culture that you're aiming for and that you're trying to create, and you put the right people in the place, when you have bottlenecks going on, we have issues in the business. Most most business owners that I've spoken to immediately go to, I have the wrong person. It's that person's fault. They're the reason why I'm having these issues. But if you
Well,
have the cultural alignment, you have the value alignment, you have the right people in the right place, is it really that person? We spoke about it. If you have an A plus player and they've been performing at an A plus plus, you got a couple deals. Things seem like they're going great, and then all of a sudden you hit that plateau.
mhm.
Are you going to blame that person because you hit a plateau? Or are you going to take a step back and look at your business, look at your systems, look at your processes? It comes down to the two things. It's either a people problem or it is a process problem, systems and process problem. And if you've intentionally put the right people in the right place, you got a systems and process problem that you got to take a look at.
Right. Well, I, I do want to just add to that
Yeah, absolutely.
cultures build themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and cultures are developed by example. So it really is up to you. You should be the culture that will naturally develop as you move along. So you have to be very intentional about what you're bringing to your team, because they're going to give it back to you, guaranteed 100%. So when you think about building culture, it's really not building culture, because culture builds itself, good or bad. Culture builds itself. It's the observance. It's a reflection of the observance of what's being observed. So make sure that you are reflecting
You
back
set
to
the
them
tone.
the
Yeah,
culture
you gotta
that you
set the
choose to
tone.
have in your business,
Mhm.
because culture will develop itself, good or bad. So you have to lead that.
We learned that the
Absolutely.
hard way.
Yeah, you do. I
We
know when
learned
people
that
say
the hard
that,
way.
it always bothered me, just say, oh, you build a great culture. Cultures build themselves. You don't
Yep. You don't
necessarily
dictate that.
build a culture. Now, if it's just you, sure, you're building the culture. But
Yeah.
when you involve, 5, 10 other people, the culture is going to build itself. So when you're hiring people, never hire for you, hire for your team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, like in C3, when we interview somebody, I'm always the first point. I go through a formal interview, and I'm like, okay, if I like this person, I think they're a good fit for the 10 other people that I have. Then I'm going to bring them in, and actually the whole team is on the Zoom the first time. And I always tell the person, I'm going to bring you back and I want you to meet the team. Now, this is not a question asking series. We've already done this. We've had our interview. I think you're great. I think you'll probably be a great fit for the team, but I want you to have the opportunity to ask my TCs, what is the day in the life of? What does that really look like? I said, because we have a culture of honesty. So if this is crap, or they don't like something that's going on, my team will say it. We need to fix this. Something's not right with Joe over here, or, whatever. Something's going on. We got to get to the bottom of it. So when we have interviews, the whole team is on the interview, and they tell that person what a day in the life looks up like for them, because for every TC, it's different. I have some TCs that have a W-2, so they're doing that and they're TCing. I have some that do nothing but TCing. I have some that only do certain types of transactions. So each TC can give them a different point of view of what it looks like to be a TC, a day in the life of a TC. But I tell them before they come, you're not going to ask, you're not necessarily here to ask Chris and I questions. You're here to ask them questions. So if you know that you've got to take a break every hour, maybe you're smoking Sally and you need to do what you do all day, whatever that looks like, that's your opportunity to get true answers about if this is a good fit for you. And I want them, you do that because I just sit and listen. I listen to the questions, I listen to the responses. It's a perfect opportunity for me to see how the culture is developing as we go. Because, you know, last time we did an interview 3 months ago, Jane might have had very different answers than I'm hearing Jane tell this new person today. And that's an indicator for me, right? Good or bad, you know, it could be good or bad. So there's just so many opportunities, guys, that people often overlook when they're building and developing teams. And even, you know, as your team grows, you know, as your culture is growing, all those things, there's so many opportunities that are missed because we often tend to want to be action takers versus observers when we get in those positions. When you're in that true position of leadership, you really become more of an observer.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, oh, based on what I've observed, what I understand, what are the, you know, these dynamics of the team look like now? How can I promote, you know, upgrade the culture? If I see, you know, I've actually had it happen several times over the last 2 decades. I mean, I've managed people all my life, I feel like now, where you have these stints of just, God, your team is so freaking fantastic. You know, everything is great. Everybody gets along, or at least are very respectful to each other. You know, you just, that synergy is there. And then Joe gets a great opportunity, so he's got to leave the team, and now you're replacing him. And that one person comes in and it changes the whole dynamic. I know you guys have probably been there sometime in your life where you've been on a team like that. And it's your job as a leader to go, what was it that Joe left with and what was it that Jane brought? What's the difference here? And start to observe that. Because I hire slow and fire fast. If I see the equilibrium moving one way or the other, I am quick to be like, Jane's out, let me try somebody else. I do not waste time on that, you know, and that just comes from decades of experience of managing people too. You have to fire fast. The more you let an infectious person continue to move through your culture, it's going to change that equilibrium. So yeah, it's interesting that, you know, I wanted to add that in there about culture. You've got to, it's your,
Okay. That's so good, Angel.
Yeah,
No,
you're not, culture builds itself. You've got to observe it and make the right moves all the time to keep the equilibrium there based on your vision and your mission for that.
So basically what I'm hearing is that you hire strategically and then you do periodic temperature checks, right? To see what's going on and see how people, it's how they felt last month, is how they feel this month. That is, so I just had this happen. So I know exactly, like this resonates so hard. This deal would have been done. This 24 unit, we had a person that was partnering in it. They were the capital sponsor and they were coming with the liquidity. But when I tell you this was a square peg round hole situation, it was cringy. It was so hard. And it was like my partner and I were like, we were going into this thing like, I can't wait till we refinance and get her out. And I'm like, but we don't want to go into a deal like this.
Yeah.
How you gonna go into the deal not liking the people that you working
so funny. We were just, because we tell people all the time, you know, we have, we use private money lenders for everything. So we buy creatively. So the private money lenders are always coming in to take care of the closing costs, do renovation costs, all that stuff versus taking loans all the time. And Chris and I are very strategic who we partner with. Like, we won't, just because somebody says, I got $100,000 to lend, doesn't mean we want your money, to be quite honest. You know, we really kind of date that lender a little bit. Is this somebody we really want to go into in a long-term relationship? Because back to what you said, you know, it takes a while to get to know patterns. You know, everybody has patterns. And so we won't do that. We always, whether you're hiring, whether you're sourcing private money lenders, whatever that looks like, take your time. If that's any time during your leadership, you take time, it's there with your people. Always take time to source the right people.
Yeah. So hard.
And if they don't match that culture, that vision, whatever that looks like, goodbye. Do not waste time on that, guys. Absolutely do not. Because that one infectious person, and I don't mean that, you know, that kind of sounds hardcore, but that one person can infect everything
It
in
was
your culture,
infectious.
everything that you build.
It was infectious.
So you have to be a constant observer in your business. You have to do those temperature checks. You have to have open communication with your people. Always make your people feel like they can tell you anything and they're safe. Because just kind of back to those opportunities when the whole team gets in there to interview one person, I just get to listen. I just get to listen. And I can definitely tell when there's a temperature off there, that equilibrium's off. That person is not who they were 3 months ago. They're not asking the same questions, and they're not saying the same things, why they like being a TC, or, you know, all those things. That is my perfect opportunity to observe what that looks like every day in the business. Where's it going? Where's it going? Are we heading the right direction still? Do I need to pull somebody else in? Do I need to take somebody out? You know, that is what you do as a strategic leader.
It was such a weird energy when she was in the group, right? And what we had done, because we knew we were speed dating, right? I came in, like I said, in the 11th hour. She has 2 months to close this deal. And my partner's like, look, we just got to make her comfortable. I'm like, man, look, I'm not kissing this lady. But she would come into lenders meetings, and instead of having her face in the Zoom like regular people, she would put her 834 credit score there, right? A picture of her. Okay. And so we would have these passionate exchanges, is what the team had started calling them. We're just passionate expressionists. And I was like, no, this is weird. Okay. Because I'm working on mildness over here. And all this jip jap is not gonna work for me. Right. And so finally, after 2 weeks, I wasn't gonna let her waste too much of my time. Okay. 2 weeks and I had to let her go. Okay. And in the sense of scrambling. But after I made that cut, the team was still talking in that passionate expressionist, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I listened to it go back and forth for a couple minutes. And I said, hey guys, you guys know I'm under construction. I'm on self-development, right? I'm trying to get this fruited to the spirit thing down. And one of them is mildness. I can't talk in these raised tones for an extended period of time. I certainly can't listen to it. Okay. Can we just bring it back to our indoor voices? We don't got to yell no more. And no one's raised their voice since. Right. The two people that remain on the team still, you know what I'm saying? So you're right. You're absolutely right. You as the visionary, as the leader, you set the tone for that. And you've got to get rid of the people that are gonna disrupt that. And that was one of the hardest parts, Jay-Z, when he kept saying hire somebody, even trying to help me curate the ad and all of that. I'm like, I'm so specific. I know so specifically what type of vibe I'm going for. I don't even know if I can curate the piece that I need to attract the person. Like the person I'm looking for gonna have to be in the room I'm in at the same time. They're gonna have to hear me speak, and then they're gonna have to gravitate to me. I think that's how it's gonna go. Because I can't even. It would have to be way too wordy for me to attract the specific person that I'm looking for. They just gonna have to be a flower on the wall that day. And so, and that's exactly how it happened. My project manager, which is so interesting, when he called me that day, he thought I was somebody. He was like, I was a little apprehensive about calling you. You know, this man did work for 2 hedge funds. This man then was project manager over big stuff. And you thought I was somebody? Sir, I think you somebody. I'm glad you overcame your fear, honey, because I needed you. I was looking for you. Where you been? Okay. Hurry up next time. But we hit it off. As a matter, he called me and I was just going through something with my teenagers and cleaning up behind the 6-year-old, and he was picking up toys that he wanted to play with, but leaving the other stuff. But I'm trying to sweep the floor. So when I answered the phone, I was a little, hello. And he was like, hi, this is Naomi. I was on the Zoom with you earlier. And so I, hurried up and switched up. I was like, oh, hey, how you doing? Good. I'm glad you called. What's going on? How are you? He's like, I should be asking you that question. Immediately, I knew he had the right vibe. I was like, okay, LOL. We laughed about it. You know what I'm saying? And it was like one of those situations where you never meet a stranger because we just clicked. We locked in. He's like, yeah, I heard you talking all that stuff. Da, 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 da. You just need a project manager that gets stuff done. You know what I'm saying? That could deploy teams wherever in the state, da, 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 all the things, right? So I was like, see, I have a project manager that can match my vision that evolves. But I'm good now with where I'm at. I'm not gonna go beyond city revitalization. My plate feels full. This feels like the right size goal for me. Not too little, not too much. Now I just got to whittle it back to where I could work less than 10 hours a week in the business, and I could still do the thing. So yeah, but yeah, everything that you guys have said, everything I've learned from you, Angel and Jay-Z, oh my gosh, spot on. I'm like you, I don't got to learn from other people's mistakes. Jay-Z coming here and tell us all his doggone mistakes. You did what?
Oh,
Oh, okay, you learned.
yeah. I'm an open book. I'll
Failures are
tell
the
you.
best learning tool.
Oh my
See,
God. Because I remember
Angel,
your previous partnerships. Wait a minute. I didn't even know y'all was broke up. The band broke up. Oh, okay.
see,
You
Angel,
feel-
you're not the only one that delivers the gut punches. I deliver them to myself out in front of everybody. I'm not.
He does. I
I'm
love
not
it.
shame or
Hey,
bashful
there's
of it
no
because that's
shame in
how I
that.
learn.
I've
None.
I've felt
None.
way more in life than I've succeeded, you know.
Mhm.
But you know, I mean, I hate to say the word fail because it really weren't. They're just lessons.
Mm-hmm.
They're just lessons.
That was it. That
Yeah.
was it. So I thank you guys for your candor and your vulnerability and just being so transparent because I was sitting on the sideline not wanting to make all the mistakes that I was watching y'all make. I was like, okay, wait a minute. I was just about to get started, but I might need to learn some more first.
Yeah.
And I've sat here until I can't sit anymore. And then I had to get to go in and I'm just glad that people like you are reaching back, right?
Yeah.
Because you guys you're doing your thing. You're doing your thing and you're doing it and you're making it look easy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad you're telling us that it's not.
No,
You're
No,
sitting up there looking all cute. Like I have never seen you disheveled in a Zoom before, Angel. I used to come to the Zoom with my bonnet on. I called it a bonnet to make it sound French. You know what I'm saying? But then I was like, you got to look the part now, me. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to look like what you going through. You feel me? You got to
showing up all crazy.
all
that's
crazy.
why
Look
I
at
have
hey,
a beard.
how cute or whatever, girl. So I was like, let me comb my hair. You know what I'm saying? Let me arch my eyebrows, get my life together.
You know, I actually had people that have actually told me, you worry about the wrong things because I'm like, nope, I got to take time to like brush my hair and put some lipstick on before I hop on a Zoom. And they're like, you're really worried about the wrong things. No, because it's important to me. It's important to me. That means it's the right thing to do.
Period.
You know, and you shouldn't. That's just my personal opinion. You shouldn't show up to stuff looking all crazy. You never know who's going to be in there.
Mm-hmm.
It
My
could be
God
that
told
next.
me
It
that.
could be that next project manager. Do you think he wants to work for somebody sitting around in her bonnet?
I know, right? I
Right?
don't think I had my bonnet on that day. Thank God.
Yeah, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
you just don't know. You're here to do business. Now, like we're here to learn right at this moment specifically, but about business. You never know who you're going to connect with in a Zoom. I don't want to show up with my hair on my head unless I have to. I mean, if I have to, I have to. You have those days, but
Yeah.
I want to show up, and to me, that makes me feel serious about what I'm doing. I take my presentation. I'm not just somebody starting out or whatever. I am in a leadership role and a lot of people depend on me. And if I show up all the time looking disheveled, like I don't have my shit together, I think that presents a look that I just don't want to have. That's not who I am. So,
That
to
goes
each
back
his
to what
own.
James was saying. James was saying, make sure that you've got your value system and your, you know what I'm saying, like your vibe
Yeah.
before you go into these rooms so that the other stuff don't rub off on you, but also so that you stay true to self. Because, to your point, it's not okay to be disheveled. My God told me that. He said, you never know when you're going to be you representing me.
That's right.
So you shouldn't be looking no any kind of way. So I was like, you're right. And then,
I mean, don't think for a minute, the minute that I walked into Plasma, we all know there's mostly a bunch of crackheads there, people trying to get their $50 or whatever. Honey, I went and pulled up in the BMW, earrings in, hair did. They probably thought I was a doctor pulling in. Oh, I was just there to get plasma, but I wasn't going to show up looking crazy.
I know that's right. No, that's right.
That's just not who I am.
Period.
So, yeah, it's really just about authenticity. And that's whether it's personally, professionally, you show up and be you. Now, if you're that person, you want to rock that bonnet and that's who you are. And, that's not your normal thing, that's okay. Be authentic because you will still attract your tribe, right?
Girl,
No matter what that looks like, you will attract that. So
I just spent I spent 5 years, I think 5 or 6 years straight breastfeeding and having kids. So I got really comfortable in the bonnet thing, because when you're breastfeeding, it's like birth control. So you're not having no kids. But as soon as that baby get off the teat, then boom, here come the next baby. I'm like, dang, You know what I'm saying? So I got a shoe rack that fills up a whole wall. I ain't worn none of them shoes. I'm
I
looking
was
at
looking to see, this is funny that we're talking about this because Steve is actually on here. Steve got to see me today. Steve, did I look like this today? I did not. My hair was in a bun.
You
Now, I
look
wasn't
fine.
all crazy or anything, but you know, I had pulled my hair up. It's a warm day. I'd pulled it up, didn't have any makeup on. But I came tonight to represent Angel Miller and who I am in my businesses and my company. And that to me is important to show up and show up right.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody has that, but you know what? That's going to attract people who have the same values as I do. You know, I want people, if you're coming in and you're working in my business, now most of us work virtually, but you're working in my business and you have to have conversations with my clients. Don't show up to my Zoom with my client in a bonnet. You will be fired.
Period.
Okay?
Immediately.
Just saying it.
Uh-huh.
Because I want you to be your best and to give that client the best of you when you show up to service them, you know?
Yeah.
So like I said, everybody has their own opinion on that. That's mine. If you're going to show up and show off.
Period.
Period. That's just my position. I can see Jay-Z giggling under there.
I am. 'Cause I do agree, and I agree that it is to the individual, and you know, like you said, you attract your tribe.
That's right.
And it was like when I first got into real estate, um, Haley was the one. She's like, you know, you got to get a fresh haircut before we go to the first meetup, before you get on a Zoom. You know, trim the beard up, look really nice. She still gets on me about getting rid of the whiskers. Now she loves the beard. But it really changed when I went to my first like real big event and I saw 8-figure earners. They're dropping F bombs, they're making sexually on stage. People paid
Yeah.
thousands of dollars to be there. And I'm like, oh damn, you mean I can do business and still be myself? And then I let the beard grow, I got the hair
Yeah.
growing. I'll put a hat on if the hair's a mess. Obviously, because I don't want to show up into a Zoom where I got frizz going all over the place.
Right.
It looks ridiculous, but my true authentic self, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. I'll come into a Zoom, I'll spill my heart out, I'll tell you all the mistakes I made. I will go to the end of scorched earth
Yeah.
to help you and get you where you need to go and get business done and get things across the table. But I'm showing up as me. And if somebody doesn't appreciate that, I will walk away from that table, and I'm okay with that.
That's
Because
right.
yes, and what's funny about that is because Angel, we both just described two different things. You're like, I gotta do my
Absolutely.
hair, I gotta put, but because we're authentic and we are who we are, and we stick to that, we keep to those values, we're still having these kind of conversations
That's right.
with
I think there's a little
two different
sexism
opinions
though,
on that.
right? You know what I'm
It
saying?
is.
Like
You guys
I,
have it a little
you know
easier
what
than
I'm
we
saying? Y'all
do.
be coming to door scratching y'all sack and all type of weird stuff. You know what I'm saying? But we
Yes.
come in
Yeah,
with
when
a
I got my
bonnet.
beard, sometimes is that like you'll see me doing this every now and then because it like flips all over the place. And I did it when Angel mentioned that being well groomed, like you're fired if you come in with a bonnet. I'm like, shit. Let me make sure that my I don't want any
Well,
strays poking out
I don't
because
want you to get the wrong idea. It's like I said, you can ask Steve. He's on here, and he
I know I was
actually
just kidding.
we were on a Zoom today, and you know, hair was in a bun, no makeup on, but I wasn't looking crazy,
Right.
you know. Um,
Her
and then
hair still
if you
looked
do
better
come
than
on,
Chris.
did you say she looked better than Chris?
I said your hair still looked better than Chris.
Oh wow.
So, you know, I mean, like you just whatever that looks like, just be you. Because even though it might not be the right fit for this person or that person, it will be the right fit for that person.
Yeah.
That person that's you're supposed to connect with. Um, so yeah, I mean, just a little bit of funny on that, but everybody's got their thing, and that's okay. But that's part of also building
100%.
your culture. You know, I would never. We do have, I mean, just so you know, definitely people show up to training and whatever, looking all silly and whatever that looks like. It's okay. But the person who is aligned with me is going to know not to show up like that to a client. They're going to know not to show up on a podcast representing the company like that. Now you want to roll out of bed and hop onto training with your hair all crazy and your robe on, I don't care. But when you're representing the company, to me, that's different.
Yeah.
And that's why you always see me, like you said, Naomi, on a Zoom, because when you're showing up to represent a company or even yourself, if that's who you are, then act accordingly, because that's who ultimately you will attract.
Yeah. I didn't want to attract the bonnet crew.
Yeah.
I did. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna step my game up. So
Look, don't knock the bonnet crew. They could be a great crew, right?
Yeah, that's a after hours wine Zoom or something. You know what I'm saying? That's something else. But when we, like you say, when you on business, stand on business and get her done.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah. But more than anything, guys, if you just, there's always going to be lessons. You're always going to be learning. But if you're doing this and you're not having fun on a regular basis, you're not, you don't roll out of bed like, I can't wait to get into whatever it is today. You're probably doing the wrong thing. So it's time to take that temperature check and do that self audit and make sure this is where you need to be. Don't waste time. Time is so, so precious. Do not waste time. And that's could be my last piece of advice, Jay-Z.
Are you sure? Okay.
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
No, I
Well, I
do
know it's
appreciate
almost
it.
10 o'clock. I mean, does anybody, I know we'll be wrapping it up soon, or at least I'll be wrapping it up soon because I do have to go get my daughter from work. But does anybody have any questions for me? I don't want to not take the opportunity today if I've said something that you need clarity on, or if, I've kind of brought a question to light that you'd like to talk about a little further. I definitely want to give you guys opportunity to do that.
I want to know when your Zooms are
Oh,
on Operations Rescue.
yeah, well, Chris and I will. I had to come back to Kentucky. Well, just so you know, Naomi, my dad passed, in the mid last year, and I had just moved to Florida in July and ended up back here for the holidays, and then it turned into a probate situation and all that, so I hadn't been back to Florida. Now I'm going back to Florida. Everything will be done, wrapped up. I'll be back in Florida in June, and Chris and I will start our podcast back up and doing that on the regular. But I know that the actual Zooms that Jay-Z was referring to are in our mentorship, which is
okay. And how often do you guys have Zooms within the mentorship?
every day. And it's pretty, I don't know, of course I'm biased, but I think it's fantastic because we have
I know
basically
it's fantastic.
community Q&A. Chris and I, between us both, we have just a ton of knowledge in all things real estate. So we have one day where it's just open. You come in, you can ask questions about anything. We can talk through anything. We offer, of course, specifically co-living stuff because that's our bread and butter. That's what we do. We have business buying, lending, systems and operations, which Jay-Z, I think, will be touching in there too. So, if you don't see his mug enough now, you'd be able to see it in there too. So we're kind of, we want to make sure whatever your lane you've decided to stay in, we can support you in that. So we offer pretty much all the tentacles. I do transaction coordination for people that want to do that, teach them how to, do transaction coordination. So it's a lot of things, Naomi, that we
I was on one of your
value.
Zooms, honey, and you were showing us, I don't know if it was like your manual or what, but you were giving us a peek behind the curtain, girl. I couldn't screenshot fast enough. I'm like, SOPs. I ain't never seen sexy SOPs. Okay. I'm like, what is this? Where am I?
Well,
Okay.
that's like the visionary that I have to like put. That integrator to me is, no offense, guys, but I get so like bored with it sometimes. I can do it, and I love to do the automation, but it's really more out of service to my people. Like, how can I make this better for them? So that's my driver. But you're sitting there, you're writing SOPs, whatever. I gotta jazz them up. I got that's
You
the
did.
creator that wants to come out and be like, this we gotta do something with
Me too. I hate it. Oh my God. It took me 5 hours to put together that Canva for
yeah.
that lady to make her, you know what I'm saying? It was so cringe. But I
Yeah.
had to make it pop it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I had to get the color palette right. I had to get the font, you know what I'm saying?
I
It
love that.
had to have the bold and the italics, and you know what I'm saying? I had to speak through the page. Right?
Sometimes we have to do what we have to do, but you got to throw your
It was so hard.
your passion in there a little bit.
And then
Sometimes.
everybody that saw it was like, "Oh my God, that is so good! I could pay you to do that." I'm like, "You cussing at me at
No.
this point? Like, how dare you? This
Yeah.
is not the
No,
best use of my skills, okay? I
I
just
will
can't do it.
pass.
I know what it's supposed to look like, you know what I'm saying? So I can't do nothing less." I saw Vina Jetty's pitch deck for that last acquisition when she had
Yeah.
the capital raise with Pace's community.
Yeah.
So I saw what that looked like. That was one of those NDA level pitch decks, right? And it was 40 pages of just chef's kiss. Okay. And so I knew from there what a good pitch deck looked like. That was like a year and a half ago. So fast forward, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, that's how you presenting your deal? I didn't know how to make a visually aesthetic pitch deck, but I knew that they existed. So now I got to find out how to make it. Right. And that's what I did. And yeah, they're like, oh, this is your superpower. First of all, you don't know me clearly. Okay. You just picked a piece of paper. But yeah, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. So that's that perfectionist in you. You know what I mean? It's not that we're perfectionists, it's that once we know that there's a right way to do it, ain't no other way to do it.
Yeah.
What other ways?
I mean, even me, sometimes it takes me a little bit to wrap things around my head. Some things come very easily. And then, I've had the opportunity where I've run into things and I'm like, Chris just probably rolls his eyes like, God, how many times are you going to ask that? But I really have to wrap it around my head.
Yeah.
Once it's there, it's there.
Right.
There's no going back once it's there. But, sometimes you run into those times when you're like, no, that
didn't click.
But
once I get it, I got it.
Like those puzzle pieces aren't there yet. We're missing a piece here. But yeah, once it clicks, and
but that's why you're so good at what you do, and that's why everyone sings your praises, and that's why the people that lost you still crying about it today. They still crying about it today.
I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
like, man, I messed up. I had a bomb ass team. And I didn't know how to lead them right. God damn it, I messed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I just heard that just in the last week I did. And I was like, yeah, you did, man. You fumbled the bag on that one.
Sometimes we fumble the bag, right?
Sometimes we fumbled the bag, right? But I'm glad that everybody's being honest about it, so now I can make sure I don't fumble my bags.
That's right. That's right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that, Naomi. I do.
Still crying.
Well,
and then I hear Chris talking about you. Oh my God, Chris gushes. So I just saw Chris on a Zoom the other day, and he's like, he talks about how he gave you the test when he fell off the map.
What a jerk!
I was sitting there thinking the same thing. Like,
did you watch the replay?
Yes, I did, JC. I love it here.
Yeah. So it was. So he was talking about it too.
James was like, "Yeah, I just wanted to see what was gonna happen." I come back, Shawty, she did all. She ain't called me. She ain't named me. That's when you know you rocking with the right one. I was like, "Come on, Angel, you go, girl." Yeah. So I see why people are crying. You know what I'm saying? I see why. Because I remember others putting you on that pedestal, but they didn't. They said it, but they act like they ain't really get it. You know what I'm saying? But they get it now. Because when I see the replacements, I'm just gonna stop talking. But y'all doing great things.
Thank you. But it all comes circling back to staying true to your values.
Yes, that part.
And being very strategic about the people around you.
Yeah. And being able to step into who you truly are meant to be, like I said. And I said it earlier, I've said it again, I've said it to you guys one-on-one, said it to Chris 2 weeks ago. I really do hope that you guys do give yourselves the pat on the backs and you guys do take a moment to really celebrate that, because in my humble opinion, I got to watch from where things were to even the last couple months. It was like boom, 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 boom. Then I got on a Zoom with Chris and we talked about a couple of things. I'm like, oh man, had I known this a couple months ago, we were all in the lane that we were meant to be. Like, could you imagine, like
Oh my gosh,
how
Jay-Z.
crazy things would be today? Like how much
Yes.
further along things would be today had that started earlier.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing to be able to watch and really be able to see and display like what that looks like when you lean into that.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
real,
because
for real.
you kind of don't see it yourself sometimes, you know. I mean, I do know my capabilities, don't get me wrong. I know my value and my capabilities, but I still have struggles in certain areas, you know, and I think anybody that can, s- you know, sit on and where they have an opportunity to promote themselves, if they can't be honest in, hey, I really struggle with this. That's problematic. You know, we all struggle with something. We all have things that we can work on, things that we can do better. We just have to remember, share what you do well, and let somebody else shine that might do something else better.
Mhm.
I always say that, let those that can do something well do it.
Oh,
You can't
as a
do
leader,
everything. You
yeah.
can't be great at everything, nor should you ever just try to pretend that you are. That's we innately know none of us are perfect, right? So learn, take those opportunities to learn from others who do something well that you maybe struggle with, and by all means, if you do something well, share the hell out of it. You know, help people grow in those areas and learn and share those mistakes. You know, I've said it probably 5 times tonight. Failure is the best lesson. Absolutely. There's so much to be learned from failure, but yet people are so scared to share when they fail at something. You know, I don't know if they're ashamed or, afraid of judgment. Um, it's okay. Everything great was birthed from failure, you know? So I don't know, that's something that I'm really, really big on. I love to listen to somebody who can tell me the truth,
Hmm.
that can
That's
just be
Oh,
honest.
I have a post pinned on the top of my Facebook page that basically says that failure are the rungs on the ladder to success.
Absolutely.
And there's a video of a guy that's talking about how many times he went bankrupt and how he had told one of his millionaire or billionaire mentors, and he was crying, and the guy laughed at him like, "Oh, you're well on your way, son. You was supposed to went bankrupt. Like, you know what I'm saying? You made 100 million. Now you got to start over. That's nothing, because you got to remember you're not starting from scratch. You're starting with the
hmm.
experience.
That's right.
There's a reason why that show Undercover Billionaire, you know what
Hmm.
I'm saying, was what it was. Why Grant Cardone could make a $5.5 million business in 3 months, because
That's right.
nobody can make what's up here. And once you know what you know, you should be able to take this show on the road anywhere you go.
And nobody can ever take that from you.
Mm-hmm.
That's why knowledge is true power.
Yep.
That's something that nobody can take that from you.
Applied knowledge is the power, right? Because some people are just lifelong learners that ain't applying nothing.
Yeah.
But you do gotta execute. You do gotta execute.
You got to execute. Absolutely. But yeah, so I'll
So
take failure any day. I've
Oh,
learned
100%.
many, many great lessons and needed lessons. You know, like I said, there's nothing better. I've been knocked off my high horse a few times. Just when you think you got your shit all together, just when you think you're doing it all right, bam. Those are the best lessons. They don't
yeah,
feel good at the time, but they are definitely the best lessons.
yeah.
So,
Awesome, awesome. Well, I'm working on getting another vehicle, but I'm gonna figure out a way to get $100 first so I can get in that mentorship, because that thing, y'all meet every day. What, I can have SOPs?
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure it out between you and Jay-Z. I know y'all gonna help me figure it out. I know y'all gonna help
Yeah,
me.
and we can, Jay-Z, we can just set up another one to actually talk about some systems and processes.
Yeah.
Because people really do make it harder than it has to be. So
Mhm.
sometimes you just need that nudge. Hey, this, just take these steps, knock it out.
Yep.
I'll just share this one thing that's probably been my saving grace, because I don't just run one business, I run several businesses, and it's constant. It, many times chaotic. As far as like your SOPs, that's something you should start day one. Everything you do, the first time you pick up to make that phone call, you should have had an SOP right after you hung up. Why did you dial that person? Where did you get that person's information from? All that stuff, do it. If you're on the phone with it, say you're looking for a CMA on a property, by the time you're done with that, you should write an SOP so that next person you can hand it to, they know how to contact the agent, where to contact the agent, what to ask the agent for, blah, 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 blah. I mean, those are just things you do every day, especially when you're starting on your own and you don't have a team. That way, when you do get that next person, whether it's an operations manager, an acquisitions person, whatever that looks like, you already have them. Make a template and stick to it. Write those things down every day that you're doing something, whatever task you're doing in your day to day. You should have an SOP for it. It doesn't have to be some 5-page thing or long, or it can be on pencil, just pencil and paper. You can get a VA later on to drop it in Chat GPT for you and spit it right back out, make it pretty.
Are you using AI agents in your business?
We are not. That's something talking to JC about, because I have
JC,
all kinds of things that I would like to implement, but no, not yet.
Okay.
It's just Angel GPT right now.
Oh, okay. I got a guy for you. Jay-Z, are you doing it? Are you doing Manus and all that stuff?
I'm looking at Manus. There's a couple things that I have in mind that I would like to be utilizing and moving into utilizing, but for different reasons.
Okay. So if I bring the AI guru genius, like this guy has been drinking from the fire hose for the last 2 years on doing nothing but AI integrations, but he's been doing it for real estate professionals. Now he wants to learn real estate. So there's an exchange of value that could take place, guys. Okay.
100%.
He can show y'all, he creates the AI agents. So I haven't rewatched the Zoom that we did the other day, but he told me about a software that I could download. And basically I should be talking as I'm doing the task, kind of like what you were saying, instead of writing it though, talk. And then he says, do that for about 2 weeks and then give me the transcripts, because, you wouldn't need to do that because you already know like your vision so clearly. But for me, it was, I was trying to articulate all these different arms and tentacles of the business. And he's like, look, and I told him I wasn't really doing the Gary project right now because I'm trying to get this thing funded. So he's like, when you get focused on the Gary project, all the things that you want to take off your table, I want you to start the software and just talk to it and go as you're going through your processes. Then I can take those transcripts and build you an AI agent that does everything on autopilot.
Oh, that's
But
beautiful.
for you guys, you can just tell him like, look, I need AI to do X, Y, and Z, and he will build the bot that does it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You have to let me know about him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
And just let me,
I'm always happy to barter knowledge. Always.
Oh my God. Yes. So I helped him to, there's a developer in his area that he's been watching since he was a little boy. And now his son is taking over the business and the daughter lives across the street. I'm like, dude, make the introduction, go introduce yourself, da 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 da. And he's like, I don't really know what to say. I don't know what to do. Da 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 da. It was so crazy because he's an AI guru, but he's overthinking it because he's nervous because he doesn't know the real estate side. And to me, that's like, what is a conversation? Wait till he finds out that I use ChatGPT to help him curate the copy, right? I just took the details he gave me that the daughter lives across the street. He's been watching you develop for 20 years, da 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 da. I took everything that he told me, told it to Chat, and Chat wrote a glowing introduction. Like, and wait till I tell him it was his own thing, right? Because he was overthinking it. Because we don't know what we don't know. Then we get insecure, and then we start getting in our head, and it just becomes way too much, right? So I was like, look, even if you got to bring him a parcel so that he would, collaborate with you, bro, I'll find you the parcel. Acquisitions I could do that in my sleep, So I'll help you. lock it down, and you help me with my processes.
There you go.
Okay, so yeah,
Harder
but
that knowledge. That's
People
absolutely right.
sleep.
It's one of the best
Yeah.
tools that we have.
yeah, like you
People
say, don't be in
sleep
no
on that.
creative group if you ain't gonna get creative.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
and
People
bartering, I
sleep
think, is
on
the best
I
system.
love
ChatGPT.
that.
I love exchanging value. I do. So, all right. So, look, can we get a Zoom on that? I'll put us all in a group chat on DM. I just want to be able to just listen. I won't even ask no questions. I really wasn't supposed to say it the day because I love the listen to Angel and Jay-Z talk. I was like, I ain't gonna say nothing today because I just want to hear everything they gonna say. But yeah,
No,
thank.
Remember, she said that, Jay-Z. The next
Yeah.
one, she's on mute.
I'm on mute.
I'm
Watch.
gonna remember. No,
I promise you I can do it. I promise you I can do it.
so two things to add to that is the SOP is like we humans, we overcomplicate everything.
Yeah.
And I know like when we see like angel examples of SOPs or what you were talking about earlier about seeing the pitch deck, when we see that, our brains go to that.
Yeah.
When I've spoken to quite a few people and like we get hung up on even creating an SOP and we stop and but if you can understand at the very core what it is and what its purpose is,
Yeah.
that's it. Like Angel said, pencil, piece of paper. I'll give you the secret sauce right now. It's a checklist.
Yeah.
You know how to write out a grocery list,
But I
right?
saw angels,
You
so now I have
mark
a
off
standard to live up
actionable.
to.
Oh,
You didn't? Have you
well,
seen her SOPs? Like, bro, you don't go
well,
back
now
from
we
that.
start. Let's talk about
They're
AI,
beautiful.
ChatGPT. I'm not the most creative when it comes to putting stuff together. I don't put the best the best visuals, but I've got people for that.
Okay.
But no,
And a damn good one.
ChatGPT. Hey, ChatGPT, people really do sleep on, in my opinion, and I slept on it for a very long time. Now, everybody that's getting into it that feels as though they're a little late to the curve, just learn prompting. Understand that.
Yeah.
I created a custom ChatGPT that I put a name to. I named him Baron. And I'm actually working with, so we do have a developer that's working on a project for us, and I'm working on getting that developed into an app, a standalone app of its own, and it'll have both text and voice capabilities, so you can speak to it, and it's
Mhm.
got the minds of a bunch of greats in there. But I was pushing it to its limits. Was it last week? I went through and I took the transcript from a meeting that Jim and I had, and I fed the transcript into it, and I walked through a couple prompts, and it gave me the weekly action plan. It took because it knows who's in my business and knows their roles and knows their
Right.
responsibilities. It knows all of this information because I fed it in there, and it gave me the action plan. It gave me all of the deliverables I needed, the core goals that needed to be taken, who was assigned to those, who was a
Mm,
supporting role, what the
Oh,
deadline was,
wow.
what the metrics for success were for that goal.
mm,
It also set it up and started prompting it so that when we go and we reflect, because we talk about reflection being huge, I could
Mhm.
utilize this same chat to reflect. Hey, we hit this deadline on time, or we hit this deadline early. Here's what we did, da 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 da. And it will like, all right, your system's great. Now let's draft the SOP, and it creates that SOP for me. If I said, hey, we hit this deadline a day later, and then this is everything that we did, it'll analyze that and like, well, here's a
Wow.
couple tips on trying to do this instead of that, or tweak this. Go ahead and try that. We'll come back, we'll review this next week. If we've made those changes, if that works, all right, now let's draft that SOP for
Where do
that
I sign
outcome,
up?
and then we can
Shaz,
hand
don't
that
go to
over.
sleep
Where do
standing
I
up.
sign
So
up?
I've been spending months putting this prompt together and tweaking it more and more, and it's got the so Angel, like I said, we're getting the chance to meet the versions of each other that we haven't had a chance to
Right.
meet yet. And some of the big goals that I have is where I would like this to go is to be a a coach that's in your pocket, that
Mhm.
has the mind of a lot of the greats, but it also has that business foundation.
Oh,
So
that's good.
not only did I put so my initial product for my platform Align, not only did I take the framework for Align, everything that goes along with that is embedded into it. It's got the minds
Mm.
of the greats. It's got Jim Rohn, it's got Alex Hermosi, it's got Pace, it's got Tony Robbins, it's got John Maxwell. So it serves for mindset, it serves for leadership, it serves for
Mm,
business
crazy work,
in a
bro.
product is what I've been
Crazy
working
work.
on building out.
So I've
Now,
been networking on
is it
my
the end
like
all be all?
crazy. I know a guy for you too.
I-
Like if you're developer dude, like I know you're building out this. I met a guy who he does those, what does you call it? He builds, oh, what is it? Anyway, he's a something engineer, with the systems and stuff. And he was saying AI is going to take over. AI, I would be concerned about AI, except for I still build a particular program that not many people have the ability to build. So I'm always going to have a place, but I want to use these skills to build out something like what you're talking about, Jay-Z. So this guy, he's been in that coding situation for like 20, 30 years. So he's seeing the evolution of it all, and he wants to use his skills to do something like what you're talking about. So, if you good with the
No,
developer you got, I can make another introduction if you're not.
I'm always down for introductions
All right,
and
you gotta meet
being able to have
super
those
humble people.
conversations.
I only mess with super dope, super humble, like people that are really for the people. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I love about what you said earlier, Angel, about keeping your circle so small. Man, I love a small circle. I love it because when you got a small circle that you filtered properly, and that means that anybody that you meet by way of them is already vetted, right? So if Angel introduces me to somebody, I don't gotta check their credentials. I ain't gotta do their background check. I ain't gotta, you know what I'm saying, get my
Yeah.
FBI friends on them because Angel rock with them. I already know they cool people. You see what I'm saying? So that's the
Trust me,
beauty.
I already know their patterns.
Period.
I know it all. Okay.
Right. Right. Exactly. Well, no, not necessarily their patterns, right? Because not everybody I know is as high
Oh,
energy as I am, but they're all ethical, they're all humble, they're all compassionate, they're all family oriented, they're all, you know what I'm saying, spiritual
yeah.
people, they're all of that.
They likely align with the same
They
values.
they align with the same values. The personalities run the gamut because I got 5 personalities, and you know what I'm saying. I like weird people, so the personality is going to be all
Yeah.
over the place, but the core values are going to be what they need to be. So,
Right. That's
No,
right.
I love it
all right,
because
James, I
that's
love that. I'm really intrigued by this. And I'm like in my head, like the whole time you're talking, I'm like, okay, how much money do I need to come up with to like speed? It's like I'm playing speed to lead in my like my head
like I
because
said, I've
that
got,
could be
oh man,
fantastic.
you think the conversation that we had the other night, that's nothing. Chris and I have got to speak a little bit about a few things, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, I've got big, very, very big ambitions, goals, and plans for the future. And now, for you guys that are left and still in here, these are the types of things that start to happen when everything that we spoke about tonight, when you really start leaning into that, you start having the conversations, you're able to observe people, you're able to keep the right ones around, you're able to re-engage even when you lose touch. Because let's face it, we lose touch with people through the
Yeah.
different walks of this journey. And the right people end up coming back around for one reason or another. I, tell people all the time, I'm not religious per se, but I will say that that spiritual side is there, and I do believe that things happen for a reason. Um, that shows up proof and concept more and more
Um,
as you keep going down this. Now, even though when I really started heading into this journey, I started out as Angel, you met me as the systems architect, the systematic integrator. That's not the James who sits in front of everybody today. That's not who I've wanted to be. That's not who I was trying to be boxed in as and, stunting my growth there. I really, really want to move way more into leadership, way more into the mindset, way more into that spirituality and, what that looks like and walk people through that and create a full on platform that supports the people coming in, it supports the people that are coaching it, support like the people that I'm
yeah.
working with. And I want nothing more than to deliver value. And I know a lot of you guys have been here for months, coming to these Zooms. And I appreciate that more than any one of you guys would know. I mean, I can sit here and talk all day long, um, but being able to have those conversations, have you guys coming in here consistently, showing up, and then allowing me to now, those people I am re-engaging in, now that I'm in the new true form of who I am, and to bring that in and to amplify that value. That's where I want to be. That's where I'm headed.
I love it.
You
And
guys
you
can
are.
do it too.
Pat yourself on the back, Jay-Z. You've come a long way, baby.
it, it's it's been a rough road.
Yeah.
There have been
You know, that's what
a
makes
very
it so
lot of years,
right.
but
And I,
yeah,
they're I don't remember what's that old saying, the road to riches is paved with gold. That's BS.
yeah,
It is the rockiest road you will ever travel, but it makes it so that much more worth it in the end. You know, you
100%.
can't see when you're going through it all the reasons that things happen, but once you look back, you're like, if that hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have, pivoted and went that way, or I wouldn't have done
Mhm.
this, or I wouldn't have done that. So you always just trust you're right where you need to be at every moment. You're right where you need to be. And if you have to continue to go through lessons, God, universe, Buddha, like I said, whoever it is your source. They're going to keep taking you back there till you learn
Oh,
it.
100%.
Trust that.
It's funny
So
that we talk about God and religion too, because
yeah,
George, I
learn
know
that
he
lesson
dipped
and
out.
yep,
I
learn
look
that
for
lesson and move on.
He sends me a Bible verse every Sunday. Every Sunday I get that text, and I look forward to it.
Yeah,
And I told him, I was like, dude, I actually read them. I was like, just
Who
because I
sends
don't,
them?
yeah,
George. Yeah,
Oh, Paredes.
like I
yeah.
said, yeah, wonderful individual. I'm so glad to know him and really
Oh,
actually be able to
George,
do that.
George. That's you
That's
want to talk about somebody that's come a long way.
it's
George
that
has come
smile
a
for me.
long
Mhm.
way.
I'm
Yeah.
very proud of the steps that he's taken more so over the last couple months as well. Um, he and I have been working together actually really closely to work on transforming that and allowing him to actually step into that.
Oh,
So
I love that.
not to have that big head, but that's one of those pats in
Yeah.
the backs because
Yeah.
to be able to do that in real time and allow you guys to actually see things like that happen
Mhm.
and just know that you can do it. You can.
Absolutely.
I'm
You're
so
the
glad
only person.
you
You
stepped
are
into
the
that.
only person that's ever stopping you.
Yeah.
100. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. You are always the only person stopping you from doing anything. Nobody can have that control over you.
Mhm.
So
I'm glad you stepped into your space too, bro, because I ain't gonna lie, I used to just call you Haley's husband. I thought that was the best thing going for you. I didn't know you was a person. And
I'll
then I'm
take it.
like, what? He dope
I hope
too?
you're hearing
Hey,
this.
social media is my Achilles heel.
Mine
Okay.
too. Mine
It's my
too.
Bad
Achilles
three,
heel.
bad three.
I don't know how many times Chris or I either one have been like, we could use Haley right now.
But you know what does actually feel really great at the end of the day is like, and I do it all the time, and I'll talk to people, and whether it's any one of the partners from the acquisitions business, whether it's Haley, whether it's Chris, whether it's Angel, whether it's George, I'll speak to somebody and they'll be like, oh, you know who you need to speak to? You need to speak to that person. I was like, oh, I absolutely love that person. We're working on da 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 together, or we're business partners. And like, what? I'm like, yes. Like, so
I've heard that. Yeah.
yeah, it's one of those things where it's
One of
like,
those things
man,
when you move a little more in silence, the the breadth and depth of what you do doesn't show
mhm.
up until much later.
Yeah. Or like I'll name drop in the conversation, like, you know them? Oh my God, I
Yeah.
love them. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the caliber that we play at, baby. Like, come on.
That's
We're
right.
waiting for you to run along with us.
That's right. Should always work to improve your circles.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And team, that's so
Mhm.
important. Um, I know we all talk about accountability, we harp on accountability. When you do step into that leadership role and you do start building your team, it's a whole different type of accountability. They are
Mhm.
your accountability.
Mhm.
The decisions you make,
You don't make money,
uh,
they don't make money.
yeah,
I mean,
you're
period.
yeah,
You know,
you're no longer making decisions for you.
That's right.
You're making decisions for them.
Absolutely. Jay-Z, I have to go. I have to go get my daughter from work.
No problem. I know it went
Um,
really late, but
Oh no, I'd keep
That
going if I
happens.
didn't have to go get her, but I had a great time. You guys are great.
I mean, you can transfer
Like
to
I'm
your
gonna
phone.
have to jump in here more often.
Look, you can hop on your Zoom. You can hop on your phone on Zoom if you want to. No, I'm just messing with you.
to be honest, I should probably get some Z's myself because I was
Now
up
we all out
until
here.
2
We all out.
a.m.
Look,
this
she's
morning.
pumped. She's ready to do it.
Yes, that's what kind of energy I get from these Zooms, man. I'm like, what a it's pulling all nighter.
Well, then Jay-Z needs to start them earlier so
I haven't eaten
we
a
can
thing
go longer.
getting off of here. Shot swat, what time is it over there, broski?
Yeah,
Shot swat,
it's 7:47 morning.
Oh,
7:47.
good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for starting the day with us.
So much, Angel.
They need
And
it. Hey,
We've heard
like,
great things about you, by the way.
what?
Naomi's just been talking you up, and we've heard great things about you.
Oh, like she's making fun of me.
No,
no,
no. Honestly,
no,
great
bro.
things about
We
you.
talking about like not many people have the drive and the determination to be in a totally different time zone like you do. You see what I'm saying? So that you can get into these different rooms, so that you can get the traction in your business. Like, man, bro, come on now. You already know I'm 10 toes down with you. I'm like, this boy gonna do some things. You know what I'm saying? You getting this whole family up out of India. You know? And then we
She
coming
did.
back
Yes,
over there to visit.
She gave you your props.
Yeah.
you
I
know,
was
it's really very exciting for me to join you guys because I know people over there are very smart. And if I want to be smart like you guys, then I have to hang out with you. You know, that's why every time I hop on these calls like James, Dick, Angel, Naomi. Angel, I think it's our first conversation, and I have seen you in a community like you are partner of Chris, right?
Yeah,
And when I realized like few weeks back, Chris was in this Zoom,
yeah.
and then I was searching about him and I saw you. So you guys are doing very big things in your uh, like in your field, and I want to be there very soon. That's
Well,
why.
let's work to get you there. There's nothing special that I did, Shawat, other than get up and take action every day. No matter how painful it was some days, no matter what I had to sacrifice, I stayed consistent, I stayed resilient, and I took action. That's it. That's the secret sauce. I mean, everybody has, your day-to-day is going to look much different than my day-to-day. So we all have to figure out how we manage that effectively. And whatever that looks like for you it is what it is. But just know that if you're not taking action, you're not networking. You have you have to network in this business. Now, kind of to Jay-Z's point, though, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to show up to every Zoom. Don't waste your time doing that. Find the things that are going to move whatever it is that you want to do forward. If you want to learn real estate, a specific thing, say maybe you did want to do co-living, you should be finding me and Chris every day. What are we doing? Follow us, learn from us.
Exactly.
If that's what you choose to do. If you want to wholesale, find that person who is truly successful at it right now and follow them every day. Try to talk to them. Hop in Zooms if they're doing Zooms. All those things. Just be laser focused on what you want to do and take action every day. Before you know it, it'll come naturally. It will all come naturally. And surround yourself with the right people doing what
That's a really
you want to
big
do.
statement. That's a
clarity
very
and
big statement.
intention.
And I would like to connect you, Angel. Like most people don't accept my friend request because I am completely out of the world.
Look,
But
after what Naomi said, I don't know.
I'll
Yes.
send you I'll send you a friend request over Facebook as well, and if you could just arrange some time like this, like I know you guys have plenty of works to do, but is there any calendar you have so I could just book a slot for like just 15 to 20 minutes on
I I do not use Calendly. I'm going to say that I hate Calendly like I hate acquisition scripts.
Oh,
They're
Calendly
terrible.
did me dirty
I
today.
yes, Dick, I'm with you. They're terrible. No, if you just friend request me and DM me, I answer my DMs.
okay.
I'll say, hey, Joe, whatever, Jane, Joe, whoever. Today I have 4:15. Can you make it? Tomorrow I have 5:30. Can you make it? Because I don't know
Yeah.
what my day is going to look like. And I think sometimes people think you're rude or whatever when you're like, I don't want to give you a Calendly. Look, I run 5 businesses. I don't know what my everyday is looking like. Even when you think your calendar's full, you do have things to take care of. They usually get rearranged and switched around. And just DM me, and I promise that I will answer you, and we'll set up a time.
Thank you for
I
saying
really
that.
appreciate.
Yeah.
Like uh, my ultimate goal is to just be a landlord over there.
Uh-huh.
So I am just looking for those ways to accomplish that as well. I usually talk to James and like about this. In my first conversation with James, I told him about everything what I want to accomplish. Right, James?
Hmm.
Yeah, and
We
I
got the whole
want
lay of the
to
land.
what?
So we got the whole lay of the land.
Yes, and I every time I have to have a conversation with anyone because those successful people have already accomplished those things whatever I want to accomplish, right? So it's not bad, and I never feel ashamed of asking for anything to anyone because yeah, because I have read a book of Robert G. Allen, and the book was The Challenge, and I see him as my mentor because he's a legend. Whatever pace movie and someone is doing in nowadays this time, he did all these things in 1980s or 1970s. He was legend, and he started the concept of nothing down as well. So what he wrote in that book, being resourceful is if you don't have something, someone has. Go grab it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He
So
really did. He coined the term who not how way before anybody else did in this millennia.
yeah, exactly. And like he's gangster, in this
Yep.
field, he's gangster. No one, no one knows. Like I have seen like some people here know, but in most of conversation, people don't even heard about him. Who is Robert G. Allen? But he's insane.
He is
So,
a master.
and one another thing what I like him about in that book he also mentioned is if you will give you a feast to someone, you are just feeding him for that particular day. But if you teach someone how to feast, you are going to feed him their entire life.
Mhm.
You know.
Right.
So yeah,
Well, just
this
a
is
tidbit for you, Shawan. I know you probably already know this, but they have actually made a lot of Robert G. Allen. They've taken snippets from his book and made them into videos on YouTube. Like, with AI, the way it can animate things now, they've done that. So search for that on YouTube.
who's this man?
Probably enjoy it. I'm sorry,
Who's you are talking about?
Robert Allen.
Yeah, Robert G. Allen. I follow him on Facebook as well on Instagram, and I'm in conversation with him one on one on Instagram as well. I don't hesitate to send message to anyone, no matter he is millionaire or billionaire. I just send message, and he's going to like he's uh, on his mission of 50 days of becoming a best-selling author. He's like doing this, and every single day he posts a video regarding that on Instagram. So I reached him out anytime, and he have like also I got a message from his team to join them on because on my May 20th his birthday there. So it's like 40th day today. he started from 50th back to 41 now, and every day he teach something about how to become a best-selling author, because he has tons of books like multiple streams of income. uh, like he's intelligent. He have also teach the mentored the person like Robert Kiyosaki as well. So
Oh my goodness, you all, I'm so sorry. I just got dinged again. I totally forgot about my
You
daughter
gotta go
again.
get
I
your
have to go.
daughter.
okay.
Angel,
Yeah,
thank
she's gonna be
you.
sitting on the outside and she works at Chili. She's gonna be sitting outside on the cold by herself. Look.
Angel, thank you so much for your time, and
Oh,
thank
it
you
was
for
an
Yep.
tonight.
absolute
So
pleasure.
grateful. So grateful.
We'll
We
we'll we'll
appreciate,
have to
and I'm
schedule
very
our part
talkative,
two.
so I'm really sorry.
No, but yeah, any of you guys, all you got to do is DM me. If you got a question, just have a thought, you don't want to like, just pitch some things back and forth. Like I said, I may not answer immediately, but I will always answer you.
Well
Okay,
worth
okay.
the wait.
Thank you so much.
Worth the wait. Okay.
Thanks,
Unless you're
Nick.
me, I get the "Who's this" new phone text all the time. At
Bye.
least twice a week.
Bye,
Thank you,
Whenever.
Angel.
All right,
Bye.
guys.
Bye.
Good night.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Angel. Bye bye.